Right, this is going to be another episode of the Four Horsemen. Obviously, I'm joined by the other horseman, Richard Lewis, award-winning journalist. We don't mention that award anymore, but he did indeed win awards, just vague, abstract awards. Don't worry about that. And we've got MonteCristo here. He had a birthday. That makes you actually sound so shit, Monty. It's like, well, Monty had a birthday.
I've never actually won an award, turns out.
I know, amazingly, you didn't win any awards, even when they didn't chop people's heads off, even when they just used to give them for video game stuff. So you never won one. And then
you did consult on the awards.
So that's true.
I did.
Well, no, that's actually more impressive, Monty, because me and Richard were told that we consulted and won. It's obviously nepotism, and we just got that for consult. You consulted,
I was
didn't
just
get
so
a
garbage. I couldn't even get an award.
Yeah. They left you absolutely empty-handed. And then, of course, the only award that Kassad will ever win will being an absolute fraud from Reddit who knows nothing about the game he's given most of his adult life to. And in many ways, as we're going to find out in this episode, his own personal income, heart, blood, sweat, and tears, all that usual jazz, because this is the episode that is absolutely about corruption in esports. Well, that's every episode, but this is the one about specifically in TOCS.
It is important that we take a little detour at the start of this to acknowledge the fact that the Esports Awards has now eliminated the Journalist of the Year award, which is obviously hilarious. Because three of us were on their panel at one point in time. Three of those awards have been won by two people on this. Like, the funniest thing is that probably the leader for this award in any sane year would be James Fudge, who's been absolutely crushing it. And he has been one of the most stringent critics of the Saudi invasion of esports. And because now they are sponsored by Saudi Arabia, even though this upcoming award is going to be in Los Angeles, they have to realize that any of the journalists that they would possibly nominate or deserve to win would, in fact, denounce the awards, which is just such a hilarious place.
It's actually genius, though, because in the past, their mistake was you let journalists get established, then you have to literally eliminate them. If you just eliminate the journalist award, they can't become established. Therefore, there is no journalist to actually defeat you. It's like Terminator, but with less murder. With less murder. That's not actually in general the tagline I would use for Saudi Arabia. It's like Terminator with less murder, because actually the whole country, a lot more murder. I only saw like maybe 10 murders in Terminator.
Richard, I don't know if you know this, but were you aware that Riot just released a new champion, or they announced a new champion?
Yes, and its ultimate is public
execution.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm already going to be doing a video about that. Just everyone watching, by the way, I'll say this at the start of the show. I'm super sick. I picked up some flu in Finland, so my voice is an octave deeper than usual today. Which I know, I like it. Makes me sound manly. So
also, Richard, for your video, I don't know if you know this, but the character Vi used to have an ultimate called Assault and Battery that they changed to Cease and Desist. So apparently, Assault and Battery was too offensive because it implies, because she's a police officer, it implies that she is battering her suspects, whereas Cease and Desist is acceptable, even though the ult is the same, in which she lunges
do you want
at
better? This is a video game where if you type GG easy, you get banned for 14 days. Making allusions to chopping someone's head off seems to be perfectly fine. Bizarrely, just in time for when you're going to be doing a raft of events.
Yeah, but it's the thing, Richard, you have to understand, this is where you guys have lost, as usual, you myopic esports nerds have lost the bigger picture of societal progress, because you have to understand they're allowing pride skins to be used on the champion with the public execution. It's one step at a time, guys. Exactly, one step at a time.
I also do understand that the character is also allowed to drive.
Okay. So, there you go.
Which, that's a big.
Listen,
big
we'll get to the
all-round.
As they've pointed out, the ult is obviously going to be the hardest to change. We'll fix that later. We're going to gradually get there. They can drive. There's gear stuff involved. Eventually, maybe we can stop them getting killed if there's any time left at the end. If there's not, then just make it League of Legends 2 or something. Don't worry about it.
Listen, as long as you can drive to the gay orgy and then be executed afterwards, I think we can all agree 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Listen, compromise
publicly need to be executed.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
You have to compromise. So, by the way, that's where we actually have unironically done the meme, Richard. You know the stupid meme of what left-wing people want, peace. I just want everyone to have a lovely time and rights and peace. And then the right-wing person I want to kill everyone. And then the centrist who's just kill half the people. We've actually done that in esports. you idiots. That's supposed to be a ludicrous straw man political meme that doesn't represent anyone's opinions. And you've unironically become the character that's not supposed to exist. The imaginary centrist going, maybe just kill 9 instead of 10, and then we also have gay flags. Like, that's actually your compromises on that level of esports industry. Why are you so bad? Why are you so bad?
All right, I just figured that would be a fun way to kick off the show. Just a couple little esports awards and Riot gems in there. The public execution one will be funnier whenever Riot eventually does, in fact, partner with the Saudi Arabian government in a more deep way, or get owned by them. Considering who knows what's going on over there now. Just
imagine, right? There's going to be a moment where like a team fight is going to be won by the ultimate public execution. And the caster in Riyadh is going to have to scream, public execution! Public execution! As it comes in like this, doing a hype cast. So, which, by the way, spoiler, in a few years, you'll be doing the casting for a real public execution. So. Anyway, this is about Bleed.
And also, we do have
public executions,
Yeah.
Who knows how this story is going to end, actually, with Bleed. So we do have Kassad here. Before we start, though, talking about the Bleed stuff, guys, there's never a good time because there's always something messed up that's happening on this show for me to put our sponsor reads. So, of course, right after we're done talking about all of that, and before we talk about probably a bunch of stuff you guys don't know about Bleed, as Richard will and Kassad will unravel for us here on this broadcast, I do have to shout out one of our sponsors for today. It is Into the AM. They make men's apparel. I'm wearing a shirt. It's very Halloween. It has skeletons dancing around a fire. They've got graphic tees. They've got completely unbranded tees. They have their new fall collection with Henleys and jackets. They've got hoodies. They've got athletic shorts. They've got polos. They've got absolutely anything that men wear. Basically, you can get joggers, go to the gym, tank tops, whatever you want. It's all very comfortable. They ship for free to many countries around the world. You guys know this many of you have purchased from them already. If you guys, on October 27th through 31st, go to their website, intotheam.com/LFN, you will get up to 50% off. They're having a site-wide sale, up to 50% off site-wide. Plus, if you use the code LFN, you get an additional 10% off. So it all stacks together, guys, meaning on certain items, you get up to 60% off, but everything will be on sale on the site. So it's a great time to go. October 27th through 31st, head on over to intotheam.com/LFN for their big sale and get an additional 10% off with code LFN. So thank you very much to Into the AM. We appreciate you guys on many of our shows here at Last Free Nation. And again, as usual, supporting our sponsors is the best way to support us, because that means that the sponsors come back and we try and get products that we think you guys will like and that we use ourselves. So let's talk about Bleed. Bleed is an organization based out of Indonesia. Is that correct? It's registered in Singapore?
I would say like Singapore would be the main country, but I can't say for sure because I have no clue what was happening half of the time. Somebody says Malaysia, somebody says Indonesia, somebody says Singapore.
I've got the articles of incorporation. I could probably open them now and have a look, but
so
company was registered in Singapore, or at least one of the companies, or both, or three, I don't know. Whatever. Like all the companies are registered in Singapore, right?
All right.
In 2021, 2022, 2023. So let's say it's Singapore for the sake of the argument.
Okay, so let's talk about this because they're at least Southeast Asian. We can say that. Part of this is the wonderful mystery about Bleed and where, in fact, they are from. So Kassad was the coach for Bleed when they got into Counter-Strike. They're a multi-gaming organization. They've been in a variety of mobile titles. They've been in Counter-Strike. They were in VALORANT. And really, all of this kicked off. I'm sure it sounds like for you, Kassad, based on the information that you've put out into the public, that the shenanigans were going on for quite some time. But I would say the first inkling of the public shenanigans were the kind of rather shocking announcement that Bleed, that had made it basically as a guest team into the partnership structure in the Asia Pacific region for Valorant, they all of a sudden were basically kicked out of the partnership and another team was brought in instead. So this is not one of the partner teams that Riot selected. It was one that had actually gotten competitively promoted into that slot, and Riot ejected them from the league for some pretty vague reasons. And so I think we should probably start with that thing, because that was kind of the first public indication that this organization might have been in some trouble.
Where to start, to be honest? I don't even know. Like, the thing is, like, for us, shady stuff, or like stuff that are kind of not really normal in organizations that are like structured and like good in a sense. They have like processes and all these people working and everything that is in order. Like, for example, 100 Thieves, like organizations that are on, normal ones. Everything started like in January for us, where the buyouts didn't land, the money for boot camps didn't land. Later on came the salaries, and it can be dragging along for like months and months and months. Like, basically the current practice when you sign like a buyout with someone, right? There is a transfer agreement from the org to org, right? That there is an amount, there is a day that you need to pay by, there is whatever, right? Normal transfer agreement, and there is the player agreement that he needs to sign with the team. So we end up signing the agreement with NIP, and I think it was big, and I think after that was Falcons, but that was just a loan. But let's say NIP and big at the start. And usually the money should be there in about space of a week, right? Unless you have a different terms in the contract, like installments and all this stuff, right? And all of a sudden, like, nothing really starts landing. Like, people starts messaging me even in December. Like, hey, Alex, like, we had a deal. We had like a 7 days thing, but the money needs to land. Why is it being delayed? Then I go, because we didn't work with the team in December. We will start working in January, right? Because the deal was formed on January 2nd. But before that, it was just like a founding members, like correcting players, dealing with the contracts and all these things, right? So the money doesn't land for NIP. The money doesn't land for big. I mean, everybody can just go and ask. These people will confirm all of this. There is a email trail. There is everything going on right there. So especially from the NIP and big side. So everything started to be like really kind of awkward. And agents came to me. Daniel from Big come to me, and then Eric from NIP comes to me. And every single day or every other day, when is the update about the payments? And I always give them the same answer. Hey, they told us the bank is the problem. Although I don't know what the fuck is the problem with the bank. Bank in Singapore are one of the best in the world right now, and the banking system over there is running like a clock, as far as I know, right? But then all of a sudden there is some like auditing problems, or like some processes that need to jump through some hoops, and there is always delay after delay after delay, right? And then everything starts to be very, very strange. Like, even in January, we signed, I think it was Cypher who we signed in January 2nd. Our bootcamp started at like January 4th. And basically we were bootcamping in Relog, and then I think the price for the bootcamp of 2 weeks was about to be like 15, 16K. But I think that Relo guys gave us a discount, friends and family, because we're good friends with them for a long time, and they're in Serbia. I'm from Serbia. Obviously, they're gonna give us a good price. And they gave us like around 10K price for the bootcamp, right? Which is a pretty fair deal. All of a sudden, like, that hasn't been paid too. And then these guys who are friends of mine come to me and say, like, listen, like, what's going on? Like, we are messaging your guys in organization, nobody's replying. And I was like, I don't know, what the fuck, right? And then I asked them, like, what's going on? Is there any payment issues? Yeah, we're sorting it out. It's gonna be Monday, Friday, Wednesday, next week, this week, tomorrow. I have to, like, go here, go there. Like, classic, like, it's like, at some point later on, I felt like I'm dealing with a junkie. You know how the junkie comes in and like, hey, brother, can you just spot me like fucking 20 bucks? I can give you that tomorrow. It felt like that. So I gave up. I gave up at that point, and there was like expenses for food that came up to like 3-4K, a couple of more things, whatever servers. By the way, I'm paying for the fucking server for the team to this day myself. Like, how fucking ridiculous that is. But the point is, like, I didn't want to ruin the relationship, so I pay 15K from my own pocket for the bootcamp in January. That's like 1 month after I signed the contract. And I got that money eventually back in like April or something. But this is where it all started, like all these money issues back in January. And it had been dragging along since the moment we issued a statement in 2 weeks ago. So it's just,
Kassad,
this is where it started.
Can you go back even earlier and tell us how you got involved with this particular organization, and like what the selection process was and the promises that were made to acquire these players?
Yes. They contacted me and Yanko back in June, I think, of the last year. And then we presented the financial forecast and requirements, all these things like that needed to be done in order to run a CS division, right? There was a financial forecast and like everything like explained in the next 3 years. For the next 3 years. It wasn't like, I'm asking for $1 million now and I, shake my hand and just like hope for the best. It was a 3-year thing, right? And then we had a meeting with Mervin. And then after that there was like zero communication. They haven't said a single thing. Till maybe October or November, when I got a message again, like from a friend, hey, would you like to, go into this project, blah blah blah, whatever. So I said yes. So we get in a meeting. I tell him like, listen, the market value right now, the place is crazy. We're not gonna go crazy, but they wanted to go crazy. They offered 1.2 million to Ents to get the core of some pious Madden and I think nerds, and then lucky, I guess, for them, they didn't join because I think Ants would never see that money. But the
way,
thing is like,
one thing I know that people in Valorant used to always mention to say why this org was rich was it said that back at the end of 2021, it was claimed that they took like $50 million in investment from some like venture capital. So did they, when they were talking to you, were they telling you like you actually have like mad budget basically? Like we can spend whatever?
No.
Right.
Absolutely not. There was no mad budget. It was just like, there was no limit, but there was no like you can spend whatever you want kind of. They didn't say like what the budget is. So I kind of presented it myself in a sense what would be a 3-year kind of project, right? Not like, a 6 months thing, because the market, like I said, was terrible because of Falcons, because of Heroic, because of Astralis and all these sales and Ents and all these sales that happened that destabilized the whole thing. And the agents on top of that who are like money hungry, like it was just fucking nuts. So we didn't want to go into this kind of crazy buyouts. So we just wanted to like go slow, like build up something, do something. And then they said, yeah, okay, no problem. We'll give you this, we'll give you that, we'll pay, we'll fucking, do this, do that. But it felt like they want to do it, at least this Mervin guy, but it didn't feel like it was the right thing. I don't know how to explain it differently. You know how you talk to someone and then you like after a conversation with the person you see like, okay, this is it. This is how it should be. This feels natural. This feels fluid. This feels like, it's just like it's that. I didn't have that sense, but I was like, maybe, that's an Asian organization, Asian people, maybe the culture is different. Maybe I'm seeing things the wrong way. Maybe I'm not like, understanding it properly. So I'm not going to like follow up on the gut. Like I'm just going to like maybe see how it happens, right? Because I know from the past with working with Asian organizations, like I have dealings with like FPX, and they were like behaving very strangely as an organization. Like not to mention that like the teams like Gen G and stuff like that. Like it has been like a very, different from the West side, like 100 Thieves or even Renegades for that matter. Renegades who were like a shit show in their own way, but at least they paid on time, But the thing is like 100 Thieves is a different story. Like even Cloud9, there was a fully functional organization and they communicate differently, right? Than the Asian orgs. So this is like completely strange. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. Maybe I'm wrong, right? And then it all started. Basically, we started in like I signed, I think December 1st. I think I have it in my contract somewhere. And the idea was like to rush this lineup for a month, right? To find 5 players that's going to be competing in the next season in a space of a month, so we can get it to this like RMR qualifier, whatever thing was. So that was like the first objective was definitely to get those 5 players and to get the staff going. The staff who actually got the 3-month contract and never ever anybody sent them a contract after that. They're still like with me and they were getting paid like as players are, like not in the space of a month, but like when the players are getting paid 3 months later, 3-4 months later, they would get their share as well, which I had to beg for pretty much, but they were never given a contract. So it was just all mess all around, right? If you hire us, if you offer them a contract, you send them like this is the paperwork, it's all these things that companies do, right? It was never done the same way, and the only communication we had was kind of with Mervin, but it was always messaging. It was never it was one-time call in June. One time it was a call in December, November, and there was a one-time call after the close qualifier for the RMR, where we just said that we're gonna go public if the shit is not fixed, and then he said like, oh yeah, I suggested to him, let's go on a fucking Discord with us, sit with us so people can hear you out. Like I'm just acting like a fucking messenger here, like left, right. I don't know. They haven't seen you. They haven't heard you. They haven't, heard your voice. And they're in the organization for 8-9 months, right? So just get on a TeamSpeak or on Discord. And he came there. It was like a 20 minutes conversation, and then never saw him again, right? So that's how it started. So we had 3 conversations in person, right, with the team and him. Nobody else was involved. That Anthony guy, what's his name, Impression, whatever the fuck, was pretty much the guy who was just there. Like, I'll give you a detail. For example, we didn't have jerseys till event in Mongolia. No, in India. Sorry, in India, not in Mongolia. Yeah, Sky Sports one, right?
Sky Sports, yeah.
So in January they sent jerseys with like Valorant players' names, wrong sizes, wrong shit everywhere, and I was like, what the fuck is this, right? So we go to Mongolia, right, where the head of esports, that Impression guy, comes in. He brings 2 hoodies. It's like, oh god, my suitcase was so full, I couldn't bring the fucking jerseys. I was like, cool. So we didn't have jerseys there. So we had like the tournament organizer make jerseys for us, so we can wear them in the studio and in the stage. So the Asian sizes are like, different. So I had to wear 6XL, and the people who are wearing L are wearing 3XL.
Himself,
Come on, man.
I know.
Crazy,
right? There's no such thing as 6XL for fuck's sake.
I'm gonna fucking bring you the jersey. I'll fucking post it on Twitter.
6XL, bro.
6XL, right? Me and Jacob had it. I think I don't know who else was there. What, like 2XL, 3XL, whatever. But they made it for us, the fucking guys from other tournaments, Mongolia. And in India, we still didn't have it, so I went in Belgrade and I ordered and I bought, designed, and fucking paid for 45 jerseys myself. I paid €1,000 to the company here that makes jerseys.
He's literally paying for like food, clothing, like
fucking
water, oxygen.
Of the iceberg, man. So I put out €1,000, right? And like, make me 45 jerseys. I give 20 empty ones just in case somebody fucks up. And then we had 25 for 8 people times 3. That's 24 plus 1. I think we gave up to someone, right? So everybody has 3 jerseys of their own size if they get dirty, whatever. And on top of that, I give 20 empty ones to our manager. So if he goes somewhere, you bring it, right? So he has 20 of them. And I pay for them. I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to show up in a fucking shirt like a fucking homeless person on a tournament where I need to be representing the team, and like we need to be looking like a team, right? So we just go there. That was like one of the things. But bottom line is, like, December was used to kind of gather up whatever we could gather up, and then the shit started happening in January. And I'll tell you, like, this could be confirmed by any players. That was back in the day. The first salary came in fucking April. There were, in the space of 9 months, people, 2 bank transactions were successful. 2. One towards Cypher and one towards Faven.
What does that mean, successful, though? Like, is it
they
failed
went
again?
through.
I'll try again next month, but what can I do? What can I do?
All the other payments that were made in the alternative ways.
How many times did they offer to pay you in crypto?
They offered about 1 million times, and I asked for about 2 million times. So that's the ratio pretty much. And everything that paid was like, some of it was like maybe 10K total was like in PayPal, and the rest of it was in crypto. And it's just fucking crazy. Yeah. It came because
this is part of the problem. Like, asking around, because I've interviewed people that were owed money by Bleed. Funnily enough, me and Kassad haven't talked about it yet. This podcast is going to be our big opportunity. But one of the things that they were always being offered was, listen, will you take it in crypto? We can get that to go through, no problem. We can do a crypto transaction. And unfortunately, it does seem like some people at times have said yes to the crypto, which, listen, spoiler, if you've got a contract that says I'm going to pay you in cash X amount, don't you invalidate it by saying, I'll just take the crypto because it's better than nothing, because you are opening a Pandora's box for yourself. But anyway, this is probably the root of the problem. I'll let Kassad get back to telling the story. But a large part of this does seem to be somewhere along the line, they essentially had got lucky with some crypto investment. And then that had changed. Either the crypto crash had affected their liquidity, or they'd got. I've heard a rumor that maybe one of the guys went all in on a shit coin and got wrecked. But basically, the reason crypto was being pushed, even at a time when they couldn't pay them in cash, was because that they were very liquid in terms of crypto wealth. At one point, no longer true now, as we'll get to.
Yeah.
Sorry,
crypto was like no worries. Crypto was a thing that they used to pay most of the people in the CS division, right? Simply because the banking apparently doesn't work in Singapore. People don't use banks somehow. All of a sudden, when we sign, the banking system in Singapore doesn't work. The most developed country, like on the planet, pretty much, the banking system doesn't work there, and the money cannot go through. I mean, I guess that's logical, right? So I go to the players, right, in March, because this is how my day goes, people. We were supposed to start like practice at 11, and then it lasted like 6 or 7, and we're supposed to deal with the game, play officials, talk about stuff. But I wake up at like 9, and I see at least 10, 15 messages from agents, orgs, lawyers, players, my staff, like whatever, right? And they are pretty much the same. Hey, Kassad, like we have been sending an email to the bleed, but nobody's replying. Like, can we get our money? My player don't want to play. I think this is ridiculous. This org is ridiculous. Where is the buyout? Why is the buyout not being paid? Like, when is the money coming? Where is the prize money? Where is the every day? And I keep messaging. I listen. I'll message them. Then you need to email this. I'm working on it. Then I go to the org. Guys, please, where the fuck is the money? It's coming Friday. It's being processed. The banking is slow. Crypto is coming next week, other week, that week, right? Every day. So that's the usual day. And half of our theory that was supposed to be like dedicated to fucking game, we are talking about what are we going to do for the fucking money. I'll tell you the story. It's a pretty fucking funny story. I don't think it happened in esports yet, but it still happens in 2024, apparently, if you're bleed. Joseph Faven had no options to take crypto at all. Like, he cannot do it in Germany. At least he was advised not to do it because his agent, his fucking tax man or whoever the fuck advised him. So he cannot do it. And it was already March. So what do? I fucking take the crypto, I make it into cash, about maybe 25, 27,000, whatever the fuck was it. I have all the numbers in some sheet. And I give it to friends, and they take a flight, and they take the cash, and they bring it to fucking Germany and give it to him by hand. Because the guy didn't pay on time, and Favet has a 6-month-old baby, sorry, that he cannot provide for. And he's like, Kassad, I don't have money. Like, I used my savings to pay the tax for the last year, whatever the fuck. I have no money. The 6-month-old baby like needs fucking things. I have no money. What are we going to do? His agent is on my ass. We're going to stop playing. We're going to fucking do this. He's fighting with me. Like, I'm not on his side. Like, and I get him. Like, whatever. But the thing is, like, so I go there and I send people there to fucking give him the money in hand because the guy has to fucking put the food on the table. So that's one of the fucking crazy things that I had to do in the middle of the fucking season to get these people money. All these people who agreed to get a bank transfer never got the bank. There was one bank transfer that happened to Germany once and towards the players. That's Faven. I don't know. I can't remember which date. It was maybe June or something. And then one towards Cypher in UK. Those are the only 2 bank transactions that worked. I am pretty sure that the other buyouts were paid like 6 months down the road through banks, but I'm just talking about the actual players receiving the money on the actual bank account. Everything else was like, it was a couple of thousands through PayPal. Everything else went to crypto. And the crypto went like, it didn't even go through them. It went to me. So I had to ask him, like, listen, man, like they can do crypto. I have to cash. I have to like organize a bank transfer them. I have to give them cash because their countries are fucking with them about the tax. So I tell them, listen, I need 2 more fucking 3-4% over the top so I can exchange it in the fucking crypto exchange office. So I need to pay the manpower to deliver all these things. So it's a fucking hustle to organize everything and pay the fucking players 3 or 4 months later. So I suggested multiple times, mate, let's open up an office in Serbia. Everything will be obviously legal, clean. You open like an office there. We have the transaction. Serbia is working well when it comes to crypto. There is like things that you can do that are clean, legal, normal. Nobody needs to be doing any kind of crazy shit. Everything can be set up in a space of 2 weeks. Yeah, I'll think about it. Never happened. So we keep begging. People stop practicing. They didn't want to show up for practice. They said, I don't want to play this official. I'm not going to practice. I'm not going to do anything until I get paid. They haven't been paid for months. And every single player in the team, from Hampus to Cirque to fucking Faven or whoever was there, can confirm this. So it was a shit show from the very, very beginning when it comes to money.
And this is also while, you know, the other divisions are falling apart as well, because at the start of October, that's when Riot removed Bleed from the VCT Pacific, removed their slot there. So basically, it says due to the only thing Riot said was due to persistent operational failures of the team, which probably, I mean, how are we supposed to interpret that besides probably the Valorant players weren't getting paid too, right? Operational failures of the team. Richard, have you heard anything about the reasoning behind this? Is it a similar story? Do you know?
I mean, the Valorant side of things might conceivably be a bigger shit show than the CS side of things, if you can wrap your head around that. No one having to buy 6XL t-shirts in the middle of Asia for themselves, though. I'll say that. But a very similar story, just at the entry level. Delayed, deferred payments. We can pay you today if you take the crypto. But you know, if not, we're gonna have to wait for the banking system to get sorted. Spoiler, that I mean, everybody knows this, but just in case there's someone listening going, but what if all the Singapore banking system had just coincidentally collapsed none of that's happened. There's none of that going on, right? I want to make that abundantly clear. This is your classic esports lie. By the way, we've all heard a million times, usually from ESL, funnily enough, back in the day. Oh, the bloody banking, wouldn't you know, that notoriously, you know, disruptive German banking system. So anyway, whatever, I won't get into that.
Crazy.
Yeah, well, I know, it's bloody hell, these banks, they only work half the bloody time, you know. So anyway, what happened over at Valorant essentially was there was never, ever a payment made on time, I don't think, to any of the players. Usually they were chasing up on a 2 to 4 month deficit outstanding, if they were getting payments at all. And that would typically be the people that would eventually acquiesce and accept the crypto. If you wanted actual money in your bank account, then you had no chance. I mean, there was one common story through everyone I interviewed, and that was that it wasn't just the bank was broken. It was, oh, I'm changing bank accounts. Oh, I transferred it. Is it not there? You know, it like just a string of lies every time for the cash. And as we'll get to, this is because they weren't liquid for a variety of reasons. But also, they also had this issue where the Valorant team was like renting a house in Singapore, and the owner would just like go in, let themselves in the middle of the night. The owner of the property, so they were trying to like boot camp all around that, all the while not getting paid. All the media guys around the team, they definitely weren't getting paid. And so eventually, on a long enough timeline, they put in the complaint to Riot, and started talking to other teams within the organization, having some like cross communications. Basically, over in Rainbow Six, the Bleed guys, they just straight up didn't get paid. They just didn't get paid. They had a 6-month run where they were representing the org, no money. In fact, one of the people I'll give a shout out to, if you go over to the competitive Rainbow Six subreddit, I was first. One of the things that made my investigation super easy was a user called Drag Me Home Now, who is from Singapore, got all of the documents and said, "Look, I've done a write-up publicly, but you're the journalist, dude. Have all these documents. And I went, wow. But by the way, his write-up is stellar, and I will be giving him a co-authoring credit when I finally publish my article because, I don't know if they're a trained journalist or whatever, but everything they got is like really good work. So credit where credit is due, as always. But anyway, then the Valorant staff, the Valorant management, they had to start paying for everything out of their own pocket, much like Kassad. And ultimately, in the end, they started like looking around to try and figure out why that was the case. Basically, they arrived at a similar conclusion that I strongly suspect, which is due to some potentially criminal allegations that we'll talk about in a second that you guys can see in our group chat, but also due to perhaps a crypto coin or some crypto crash happening. Ultimately, they suddenly had no money to even keep the facade going. But I will just draw your attention to something that happened well, first of all, you can look at this just so you know I'm not pulling the name out of my ass. If you look at this report here, I don't know if we'll be able to edit these into the VODs, but this is like a
we'll link
Yahoo
them below at the very minimum,
yeah.
guys. We'll link them below.
So this is a Yahoo report about Bleed raising 1.5 million, from sponsors to fuel growth. This is an article just saying they've made some money. It names like Lincoln Lim, who is someone that's going to come up in a moment. And it talks about the main guy in all of this, which is the Mervyn Go chap. They raise money. It identifies him as essentially being an investor from a separate company. But if you then look at this article from January in Straits Times, you can see that. Let me find it. Actually, hang on. No, that's the wrong one. Sorry, it's the nightclub article I'm talking about. If you look at the nightclub article, there was an article that came up in the middle of all of this, where ultimately the names that are associated, like Mervyn and Lim. Hang on, let me get it right. Lim Jun Hong, Lincoln Lim Jun Hong, right? So we know there's an association with Bleed there from previously publicized articles. They got arrested for allegedly trespassing into someone's home and attacking someone within that home back in August. Well, it was back in 2022 where they got charged with an alleged nightclub assault. But then in August 2024, they supposedly attacked somebody in their home for reasons as of yet unknown. And so what ended up happening was, while Riot were investigating the money, they uncovered that these two people associated with Bleed were accused of having, and by the way, all publicly available the whole time, having been involved in an alleged assault of a woman, alleged trespassing and assault of a guy, and as we'll get to in a second, potential fraudulent activity. What this meant was, this was once again an indictment of Riot Games in their due diligence. Do they even do due diligence in any Riot Games? That's what I want to know. Because remember, if you're a partner, if you have an LCS, LEC slot over in League, or if you're a partnered, pseudo franchise slot in Valorant, you're meant to have been investigated. Now, yes, some of this information wasn't public until this year. Some of it was. And also, I mean, the finances, no pun intended, they look to have been bleeding out for some time. This isn't new. This goes back to the previous year when the problem started. So Riot sort of quietly pushed them out of VCT without elaborating why, because ultimately it's damning to them again. And we know you can never have that because Riot Games don't make mistakes. There's a ton of other stuff we'll get to, but just the other big one is this, which is in the Straits Times. Again, the Lim Jun Hong name comes up again, and I'll just read you the headline. 3 men face cheating charges after 2 victims were allegedly duped of more than 541,000 Singaporean dollars. This is from January the 24th this year. Three men allegedly worked together in a fraudulent investment scheme in which two people were cheated into handing over more than $541,000 in total. Two of the alleged scammers, Kang Chi Wei and Lim Jun Hong, both 35, were handed 4 cheating charges each on January 24th. A search with the Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority reveals that Kang is a shareholder at multiple companies, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's all happening. They were out there supposedly scamming people as well. One of the guys that was raising the money to be an investor in Bleed. So the whole thing's a mess. It looks like your classic rob Peter to pay Paul bullshit. By the way, just as a separate aside, as you can see there from the judiciary.gov.singapore website, I've got the docket number for the charges. The official hearing happened on the 21st of October for that second alleged assault. It's a criminal charge. We don't know what's going on. And so some of the people I've interviewed have said, because they've become distracted by a number of legal issues, this is what has also prompted them to not prioritize paying the players and doing right by people they have contracts with. Because essentially the Mervyn guy is trying to stay out of jail right now. So this is a mess. They were never a real org to begin with. Yeah,
Richard,
please do.
I'm sorry. I just want to add to this like Valorant thing before you go into this thing. I have a screenshot of the emails from Riot to Bleed, and I don't know if
cool.
Is it okay if I just upload it here or?
Yeah, just put it in the chat. Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Take a look at them.
Couldn't care less. As you can see it there on April 11th. Dear Mervyn, we have not heard updates about X-Bleed's team members' payment status from your end. Also, please share all players' contract, as I mentioned earlier. If you need any clarification or help, please let us know. Thank you, JY, whatever. April 11th, right? Then, Wednesday, July 24th of the same year, I wanted to follow up regarding the documentation requested by that member on April 11th. My understanding is we have not received any documents in regards to this. Can I ask that in these items be shared over confirmations of the ex-players' salaries paid, current player contracts, and confirmations of payment for those individuals? I assume that's the bank statements, bank slips, or like the confirmations that the money went through. Apologies for the later follow-up, as our team has made some adjustments internally. Funny. This, and then we have I don't have the date because it's actually it's on the top. So dear Bleed, this is the reminder per the most recent request sent on July 24th. Please submit this by Monday, 5th August. Thank you, Aleksandar from us. So in space of what? Since April till August, September, they haven't been answering to Riot whatsoever when it comes to this proof of payment, contracts, and all these things. So I think that's also adds to the reason why they were booted out from VCT. Obviously, there are more to it, but this is the screenshot of an email that was CC'd to the wrong person and came to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on top of that, it's probably also worth noting that, as we've already said, which is not a minor detail, they haven't been a real Singaporean company since September 2023.
Another lady from Singapore sent me this. I don't know if I can. I don't know if it's a PDF or it's public.
Hold on. I want to go back, Kassad. Did you say that Riot accidentally CC'd you on email?
No, somebody. I don't know if it was Riot or it was like somebody else from the. I think it was going between Bleed and somebody put me and my manager in, and then we got this.
I see.
Classic.
Yeah.
That's the universe throwing you a bone.
No, but not only that. It's just classic Riot with anyone's information and data. Like, just fucking, it's fine. Yeah, send all those contracts. We won't check you CC'd in on the email, though.
Yes, exactly. So let me see if I can find this. Multiple people from Singapore reached out to me telling me like this is this, you need help, legal, whatever, like this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. So the first document I think that I posted was the one, I think it's in the chat at the top, PDF file. It says the company name, Bleed Esports PT Ltd, that was incorporation date 30th September 2021, was struck off
Yep.
On September 4th, 2023. Now, what does that mean? That basically you cannot, in Serbia, we call it, it's blocked, it's frozen, whatever. So you cannot make any payments, no payments can go to you, or it's basically blocked, it's frozen. So it is frozen on the September 2023, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I got another one from the same person in Singapore saying that another company was open, a live company. Let me see if I can share this with you. Ejix. Give me a second. Upload here. Boom. If you open that one, it says that this company was incorporation date September 30th, 2021. So that was the first company that was made. Actually, no. Just give me a second. If I can open it properly. There's so many documents, dude.
I can see
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
yeah,
as
it says
I said,
live
credit to this
company.
Rainbow Six guy. Sent me a pile like this. Lots to go through.
Yes. There's Ejix company, Ejix Holdings, PTE Ltd. It's a live company. It's a corporation date 30th of September 2022. So 1 year before the other company was blocked. Right? That's a live company. And the CEO of that company is nobody other than that Lincoln Lim guy who was charged for all these crimes. Right? And the position secretary is somebody called Chong Gek Singh. So I don't know who that is. I guess that's a new name, but let me see if I can send you this one in the group chat.
So basically, guys, there were a network of companies that were created by these various actors, and it's very unclear who was actually in charge of the companies that were supposed to sign payments or that you were contracted to, right, Kassad?
Yes, I think all the players were contracted to this Ejix company. The last PDF file that I sent, it says if you open it, you will see that status of company is live company.
Right.
So if the company is live, then it should not have any kind of problems with doing transactions or doing any kind of, money transfers, right? But the other company was struck off and the money cannot be, So my opinion is that they did something with the money. They got into trouble with the first company. The government is probably on their ass for something. On top of the fact that they have this, criminal charges or whatever the fuck they did. One funny thing that happened, I mentioned this before when I was explaining the timeline. In August, me, Hampus, Nexa, Jacob, and Mervin were on that call, where we explained, listen, we cannot do this anymore. You need to pay us on time. Pay 3 months in advance and don't fucking hear from us for 3 months. Or just pay on fucking time. Just whatever you do, pay on time. Let us play in peace. Yes, no problem. Mm-hmm. On that call, he explained that the other guy is in jail, his shareholder or whatever. He said our co-owner is in jail. He said our co-owner is in jail, so every kind of thing that I have to do, I have to go without him. What question did I have? Because this Ejix company is the one that all the players, including, for example, Nexa, Jacob, whatever, have signed the contracts with them, with Ejix. That's a live company. Mm-hmm. And the CEO, the director, is the guy who is in jail. Then who the fuck is signing contracts? Do they deliver it to the fucking prison cell, give him a pen and just fucking sign it and then he goes? What does he do?
How did they get it in there? That's what I want to know. Maybe the old Morrison's bag, scrunch it up,
Yeah, it's maybe,
Smuggler's pocket. Classic.
But the thing is, how does he sign it, So all these contracts have signed by that guy. So I don't get it.
I'll also just add, as a detail for Ejix Holdings, Ejix Holdings is listed as being its primary activity on its business registration form says it is for agents of artists, athletes, models, and other performers. So it's essentially fronting itself as a talent agency, not an esports organization, something that would do representation of certain people.
But I don't think it's regulated in Singapore. They have problems with esports and stuff, so they had to find an alternative, or whatever is the closest.
This is again. This comes up, don't want to say biannually, but pretty often in esports when people don't want all of the legal brouhaha of running an esports organization, which comes with a bunch of like caveats almost globally now because esports is a established industry. What you can almost always get away with is, oh, we're just an image rights company. We don't own the org. We don't own the brand. We just own the image rights to the people in that org and brand. And what we're doing is we're paying them, like some sort of retainer for them to be part of our brand. It's ridiculous. It's not a million miles away from what happened when Twitch bought Evil Geniuses and Alliance, and then later Good Game. It came up then. It was at the heart of like the Tfue case, quite famously, which we obviously talked about. And so, yeah, this trying to get away from responsibilities by operating, as something that you're not, that comes up all the time. And in Singapore, and just in general, in a lot of Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries, the regulation around esports orgs is pretty strict. And so, yeah, it makes total sense that to kind of like bypass a lot of that, you would just say, oh, we're paying you out of this company here, and it's a talent agency or whatever.
I think like it's fucked there, but it doesn't really only go through the teams. Most of the people working in the company were not getting paid on time or at all. Like, I have seen multiple. I can't share that because like I want to protect them as well. Multiple letters of notices of like resignation or full resignations from people who were working in different departments in the organization. Publicly on public chat thing, like in the group chats that all the employees are there, were spamming saying that this cannot be done anymore. I did not want to work for free. Like I had a different vision coming in. You promised us all these things. The salary is constantly delayed. I cannot work like this. It came to the point that after our statement, everybody kind of quit. I got a call from, not a call, but a message from Razer. That was a sponsor for Bleed.
Yep.
Telling me directly, their representative telling me they cut all ties with them. And they offered us obviously support and help if we need something from the gear and everything, right? So their sponsors are whatever the sponsors they have, they're leaving them. Multiple people inside the organizations from different departments, marketing, creative, whatever, like social media, have reached out to me telling me that, they are leaving the org. Multiple team members from different divisions, from Rainbow Six, Dota, Valorant, everybody told me that they're in the same problem for months and everything that was happening. I feel bad for those people because not because they're not getting paid, because we're on the same boat, but because they're not speaking publicly. And I think one of the reasons for them doing that, because they're hoping that somebody's going to get paid. If they keep their mouth shut, they're going to get their money. So, but what they don't realize, there is nobody there to pay them. Like, who is going to pay them?
Once it gets to this is just generally sports advice for people listening, because I imagine some industry people will listen to this podcast. Once you get to the point where you're saying, better not say anything to get paid, you're not going to get paid until you say something. That's always how it works. Once you've reached that internal monologue, don't listen to yourself. Just always say something. I put it this way:
it's also that if everybody else is saying something, why would imagine yourself being the fraudulent owner of this org and saying, "Yeah, surely I'm going to pay the people first who weren't saying anything." Right? That's not. It's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's not how.
They think like if they keep quiet, they might get paid, and then they like quietly leave. But there is nobody there to pay you, people. Like it's Understand that. Join the fucking lawsuit against them, but you cannot keep silent.
I had a very similar thing with an org that's not entirely dissimilar in size and stature to yours. This was a few months ago, and basically I've been given everything to write up the story, and I was like, listen, if I can talk to the owner privately, I reckon I can get you all paid, because no one wants the Richard Lewis article giving you the business. And, one of the things that I've done for years is I don't need the clicks at this stage in my career. I mean, by the way, there's no awards left to win, is there? Like, so fine. I don't even need the accolades, you know. So you just do it for your own sense of satisfaction. But anyway, so I went and basically said to them, I know you're not paying all your players, all the stuff. And they were like, no, that's not true. And then I sent them their own internal document of all of the outstanding payments that the owner was definitely CC'd on and definitely knew about, and said, why are you distributing this internally then? And then they went, oh, right. See what you mean now, Richard. Bloody hell, yeah, my bad. And they all got paid and the story never came out. As Kassad rightly says with Bleed, you can't even do that in this instance. Like, no one even knows where they are. One of them's fighting for their legal life. Maybe both of them are.
What was funny, like before, like I think we issued a statement like 2-3 weeks ago, right? Let me check the date. But let's say it's like 2 weeks ago, right? 2 days before that, actually 1 month before that, we sent an official letter of like notice of breach of contract and all these things. Like on 6th of the 10th, I posted that so people cannot like fuck with us saying that we breached any kind of fucking NDA or any kind of shit, right? Because the email was sent on 6th of September asking for the payments to be made. Anyway, just before we posted this fucking statement that got the things rolling, we went to the Mervin. I directly went to him. And then I went to the CEO. I'll get to the CEO a little bit later. I said, listen, we're going public. You have to pay this now, today, in the next 60 minutes, or we're going public. And then he didn't receive and open the message, so I went to different channels to that Anthony guy and to the other guys, and the word got to him that we're going public. As soon as he opened the message, the spam calling started. That was that night. At like 9 o'clock, the spam calling, please don't do it. Give us another shot. We're going to make it right. We're going to pay. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fucking do that, whatever, right? And then I said, like, I don't really care anymore. Like, just fucking people don't want to be there. Like, just pay us and just fuck the money and just whatever. Like, I can't be dealing with this shit anymore. No, don't do it. Just, I owe you. I appreciate you, whatever. And then we said, like, okay, we'll give you 12 hours, like till the morning. Fix up your shit, whatever. This was 4 a.m. That was 4 a.m. in Singapore, 10:04 in fucking European time, CET, when we received the last message from him. I'll fix it tomorrow. He never showed up after that again. If you go to his Telegram, he says last seen 1 month ago. Never. So we'd go to the org, the other people on the CEO. That guy is an American, right? His name is Ian. And I think he got the short end of the stick. I don't think he's a terrible guy. I think he got there just to be saying yes, and he had no clue what was going on with the finances. Absolutely no clue. Like nothing. Nothing, no single fucking reported to the bank statements or who got paid or whatever the fuck was going on. He was sent there like because he was from America. This was in Asia. He doesn't have to be there. They can fucking just tell him whatever they want. And then he got short end of the deal at the end. Because I'm pretty sure he didn't get paid for the last 4 months because we had an argument the night before we went public on the public chat as well, where I said, like, listen, we are going public. And they were like, yeah, please delay it. We don't know where Mervin is. And this guy is known for like giving me the chat GPT answers, right? When I ask for the money and I ask what's going on, we need to fix this. It's always the same thing. We are providing you with the full support. We got you, we have you. You know, like he typed in the fucking chat GPT, got the answer, just pasted it there. So I stopped asking. Like, I didn't want to deal with that shit. And because I saw that he doesn't have any influence or any kind of power over anything there, right? So he was just posted there to say yes, and that's it, to have this title, and that's it. And then the poor guy had a wedding coming in the next 2 weeks. I mean, right now as this was happening, so he had to leave. So he wasn't even there. Like, and then he went there, and now he's going back to, obviously, you know, org falling apart. I'm pretty sure they owe him multiple salaries. He said himself it was like at least 4 months. So I'm pretty sure he's not going to get anything unless he sues them. So it was just a shit show from the very start when that statement came out, and then the statement from Breed which was fucking ridiculous as well. And you can see that this was the last post they made on Twitter because there is nobody there, nobody there. We asked like the last rumor that we heard, but I don't know if this is confirmed or not, is basically that he had like talked to several people. Like one of the VALORANT players got paid, one of the players from other division got paid. And then that's it. But nobody ever heard from him anymore. We talked to this Anthony guy who lives in Singapore. Like, there was a fucking thing when I tell you the TSM story. Because we bought Cypher in January, and we agreed to pay in 6 monthly installments, right? Up until June, there was $0 paid, I think, June. And then at some point, Reginald came out and tagged Ian, the CEO, and Bleed, like, hey, guys, why are you not paying your bills? And the whole panic started. Then Ian just said, fuck this, I don't want to be part of this, I don't want my name being through this, blah, 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 whatever, I'm stepping out, whatever. I'm not going to deal with this. I was like, yeah, fine. And then I said, like, they were so afraid that it's going to come out. So I told them, like, pay the people, it's fucking 6 months. Pay the fucking people you paid $0. You cannot tell me that the fucking bank transaction takes 6 months. If somebody walked with the money, he would get there. From Singapore to fucking wherever. And then all of a sudden I get a screenshot. You know, one of those pictures that you can send, like you can open it only once. When they're like the CEO, that Anthony guy is like in the fucking bank at like 3 a.m. in the morning paying the fucking buyout. And TSM got paid. They never said anything after, so he got paid like 6 months later. So it's just and then the point of what I'm saying is like, we tried to reach out to that Anthony guy saying like, hey, listen, go find this fucking guy to pay us, to say something. And he said, I don't know where he is. I don't have any contact with him. I know him from work. I don't know where he lives. And the most fucked up thing that got me fully fucking tilted was the fact that, like, can you just, you know, when somebody's fucking missing for 48 hours, you call the fucking police. You call the fucking authorities. You call somebody from his family to see, hey, where the fucking, maybe, you know, he's missing. Where the fuck did he go? So one of the guys reached out to his girlfriend, alleged girlfriend, I don't know. And she said, yeah, I'm on a family thing. I'm on a family dinner. Like, you know, I'm going to check on him tomorrow. Like, if my fucking girlfriend, somebody tells me, hey, your girlfriend is missing for 48 hours, I don't say like, oh, I'm just going to finish this fucking game of Dota and then I'll check tomorrow. Like, you go, like, instantly, and you look for that person. This is the answer we got. Like, yeah, she's at a family thing right now. She's going to check tomorrow. Like, meanwhile, he might be dead. Who knows, right? But if he's dead, I mean, she cannot bring him back. So why not wait till tomorrow? Like, imagine that shit. And we are sitting there, and the org is like, yeah. And I understand, like, that part because to some point, because that CEO guy was trying to save the ship somehow. He said, please don't go public. Please delay it. You're going to have people, like, you know, losing their jobs. And he was playing that card, right? People are going to lose their jobs.
Paid for, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't want them to be unemployed. How would they pay their bills with the money we don't give them?
And then I tell him, like, listen, I didn't put you in this fucking position. Your fucking CEO put you in that position. Like, our value has massively decreased because of all this shit that people don't know. I'm taking a beating fucking every day. I'm a punching bag for every single thing that went wrong. And I don't give a fuck anymore. I gave multiple fucking warnings, multiple solutions offered, everything, paid myself multiple times, different things. It's enough. Like, enough is enough. It has been 9 months of these things. And then, you know, we gave them another, 10 hours, and then we just went public because we couldn't fucking deal with it, and then all came crashing down after that. And then I got, you know, so what happened with R6 people and the Dota people. Right now, the letter of demand has been sent to Bleed by the law firm in the name of like 6 or 7 different people in the amount of $170,000 they owe them. So that's on top of all the money they owe us. So 6 or 7 people mixed up have sent the letter of demand, and they hired a law firm, which we are joining into. So it's going to be even worse. On top of the fact that
were the team buyouts ever paid either?
I was coming to that. Basically, when we were buying this Jacob and Nok, right? The price was like enormous, right? They were asking $400K for fucking Nok and God knows what for Jacob, and then we agreed to 130, but it was actually 230. The 100K was supposed to be paid by the players, like 50K each. They pay it, we give them higher salaries, it all evens out, it's fine. Right? The players paid, the org didn't. and they didn't pay their salaries. Nexa's buyout was $60,000, which was $18,000 from Nexa, that's 30%. 42K was from the Bleed. Nexa paid his out of his prize money. Bleed never paid. They came to me and said, like, listen, can we do this? G2 did. And then they said this, like, listen, we're gonna take the remaining money out of his prize money because he's owed a bunch of prize money from different events, and it's a slow process with the prize money and shit. And the sticker money as well from the last major. So can you hold on to his prize money and we pay him the 42K left remaining in the fucking crypto? And Nexa is like, yeah, I can do that. Owner is like, yeah, I can do that. And I send him, like, send it here so I can send it so Nexa can sign that thing. Because Nexa was not supposed to sign anything before he sees the money, right? Which is fucking normal. Obviously, money was never sent. So the 42K remains to be paid to fucking G2. Nexa is out 18,000 plus the salaries. Apex is out 130,000. Jacob and Nock didn't get they lost the sticker money they got in the previous major. They paid for their own buyouts. So they're in a massive fucking minus. And Bleed is nowhere to be found. They're not paid. Nexa, not Nexa, but Jacob signed on the, I think, 9th of May or 12th of May, and Nock signed on 15th of May. Now is what? 25th of October. Not a single dollar was paid.
I mean, the sad part in all of this is it is highly unlikely anyone's going to get paid. Yeah. Any of it. I mean, at this stage, it's pretty much over in terms of that, because they almost certainly have no liquidity. They don't have any tangible assets that I can see that they could liquidate for money. Like, if you look at their address, they've been renting a virtual office. The only two addresses associated with any of the companies that were, like, posturing as being Bleed are a residential address and a virtual office.
Yeah,
that they were like
in many aspects. I don't think people understand that the chance of them getting paid is close to nothing, close to zero.
Yeah.
And these people have been operating like this. I'm actually the 50% of me is mad, but the 50% is happy because the money that we actually got. Because I had to shut down so many fucking things, so many, like, this news that were about to come out, the agents that were about to, like, spill the beans. All these things, I had to talk to them, like, over and over and over. Please don't do it. I'll try to fucking fix it. I'll try to find your money. I'll, do this and do that. I already told you of getting a flight and getting to fucking Germany to pay Joseph so he can buy food for his 6-month-old baby. And it's just at this point,
but Reddit knows you're a piece of shit, though. So
yeah, fuck that.
Yeah,
he's probably gonna steal the baby anyway.
All the good deeds in the world don't make any difference.
My favorite part of the Reddit reaction to Kassad was when he came out with all of this stuff, and people were like, maybe that's why they were underperforming, because they weren't getting paid and were dealing with all this shit. Weird. I mean, you already mentioned how it affected the player motivations.
I mean, they were also underperforming because Nexa was a disaster. But we won't talk about that here. We'll all pretend. We'll all make nice on this.
Living off eating fucking 6XL shirts, wasn't he? Like, he paid his own buyout from his fucking prize money, Richard. They're all just fucking like, please, sir, another gold farthing, sir, please. It's outrageous.
Yeah, it is pretty Dickensian. By the way, Duncan, you barely said anything this episode, so now you have to come in off the top rope.
Sure.
It's your time. Yeah.
Well, one thing I would ask is this: if, as referenced earlier, obviously this actually affected their Valorant team too. And if people don't know, the coach of the Valorant team is Legia, and he actually obviously lives out there. Kassad at least lives remotely. Yeah. But actually, a question I did have, Kassad, is this, which is: do you think if you hadn't have been remote, like if you'd have actually met these people more regularly, or you'd been to their offices, or something, could you have maybe guessed that some of this was going on? Were there any, like, warning signs? Because you're on the other side of the world, right?
The warning side was the fact that nobody ever talked to him ever, and it was, like, very hard to get, like, a face to the voice or even a voice in most of the cases. So that was the warning side. Obviously, Like, well, nobody was blind, but you get so occupied by the games, by the Counter-Strike, by the season, you're fighting for every single fucking point, that you, instead of like reacting to these fucking red flags that we got as soon as the money didn't come in, instead of reacting properly instantly back then, we just let it drag and drag and drag and drag. This is where I blame myself for not stopping it and fucking, dealing with it instantly in January. Because in March, let's say, like, the money comes in March, like the first 2-3 salaries, whatever. And then everybody was like, fuck, yeah, we got our money. Fuck it. Good. Maybe it's fixed now. But then 3 months later, the money's still not there. And then we have to do it all over again. The same dance. What we were supposed to do back in end of January or at least half of February, just put a stop to it insta, But if I went there and saw it, because to answer your question, Duncan, if I went there and met these people, would it be like, would I feel it that something is wrong? Probably. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. Probably would. Because you can see like when the vibe is off. You can see when something is wrong. You can see when somebody's like kind of not telling you the full information, and then everything is the kind of. I'll give an example of 100 Thieves. Like you go into their fucking office and you see the fucking machine working. Like every single person in that fucking warehouse knows what their job is, and how much, and that they're getting paid, at least on time. At least that's how it looked to us 5 years ago. In Renegades, it was a different story. Even though they had like 4 employees total, you can see that at least they were like, when you call about the money, hey, it's late, okay, boom, paid. They got us visas in America. Like they did all this shit. That was kind of resembling on a functional org. Maybe it was a low level, but a still functioning org. This thing was like very suspicious from the beginning, like how the way they operate financially, right? They had all these teams, and then meanwhile, like in the first 5-6 months, I heard the stories. Like I didn't get confirmations from like Valorant players that the signing bonuses they were supposed to get, they didn't get it, at least not entirely. The money was obviously a problem, and the salaries, as you can saw by that screenshot from that email, like there was some rumblings going on, but I assume, as Richard said, they got some, ongoing crypto investment or whatever the fuck was happening, so they kept the scam going.
I mean,
not only that, they also were told very similar to you that, like, listen, if this ever comes out, we could get kicked out of VCT and all this stuff. So, which is the recurrent problem with situations like this, which is ultimately you are the money you are owed accumulates and becomes bigger to the point where you have this psychological sunken cost fallacy about, like, well, if I say something and bad things happen to the organization, I'm never going to get that money. But the reality is, this is why you always have to nip it in the bud at the very first instance, because if you don't, the bigger and bigger the debt. Once an org is essentially robbing Peter to pay Paul, it's all going to come tumbling down. I've seen this, I don't know, countless times in this business.
There's a funny story. I want to share one more story. Sorry, this happened towards the end. We were looking to kind of rebuild, get a kid IGL, and we got our eyes on this UK kid called Gisby. Maybe you know him, Richard. He plays for Monty Academy. We clicked with him. He's a good kid. Like you see that, very hardworking. He's all right. Like people liked him in the team. People wanted to play with him. I liked him, and So we go to this Monte organization, right? And then we asked, like, what is the fucking buyout? They said, like, in the contract is 150,000, but we are ready to accept 100,000. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give you 10. And they're like, oh no, we can't 10, And then back and forth, we end up getting into this fucking deal where it says like we pay 10,000, and the day the organization, the team gets into top 30 of Valve global rankings, we pay 30 more, right? Which is a fair deal.
Yeah.
And then they said okay. Then the Valorant news came out, and then they said like, listen, because of the news, I don't think that you guys are gonna pay. We cannot sell him. We don't want to sell him. The deal is off. Just the deal is off. So I just go and I offer them this. I said, listen, I'll pay you the fucking 10 right now. Just give me the fucking account. I'll pay you the 10 Send me the player, and then once we get the top 30, you get your money. Nope, we don't trust the org. They're not gonna pay. The deal is off. They start communicating with us. Everything was off, and then we just, the statement was after that.
Yeah. I love that you're out there actually just wheeling and dealing, buying players. Maybe not even for an org that, might not even exist. And you've just bought this player for 10 grand of your own money. Never catch me doing
I
anyone.
I offered to get him. Like, I was like, listen, I'll do it. I even told the CEO, I'll do it. I'll pay the 10K. They don't trust.
Here's the obvious angle we haven't come up with yet, which is what is the solution? Because if you think about it, the Valorant angle shows that it's not like having Riot Games and a game dev be involved fixes it either. Like, they didn't spot it within their whole system when people weren't getting paid, even though this team, as Richard says, was like the one that was like added from the Ascension thing to like VCT, essentially, like their top fucking division of Valorant, which they're supposed to be flexing as their big new game. So if that doesn't catch it, it doesn't do anything. Obviously, Valve doesn't really give a fuck and doesn't intervene in the scene in that sense. So what is the solution? Like, is it something like there's a player union who actually like takes these things forwards through, I don't know, legal matters? Or because at the end of the day, like, the problem is there are people in the space like to organize, like the game dev, that can say you can't compete if your team is doing this, but you have to have a system whereby players can do this, and it's not just something happening a day before a game, for example. So what is the solution? Obviously, this could be an open-ended topic. How do we stop this, or how do we get ahead of it so like the person gets cut off when they're initially owing money instead of build up these big debts?
Well, this is
yes.
Yeah, well, this is where I have to be uncharitable, but I do keep it real, and obviously love Kassad. We're friends. We're all friends here. But obviously, it starts with you need your fucking head examined right out the gate, Kassad. Like, I mean, if you say to me, "Hey, do you want to join this Singaporean organization?" Which is going to invest in a game they've got no previous expertise in. They were founded in 21, and I think it's crypto money, but no one can really tell. P.S. If you want to meet the CEO or any of the real executives, take a ticket and wait. I'm going to say, listen, we wait for a better deal. And look, I know you've got your reasons. I also know how hard it is to get out there in tier 2. But the problem we've got is, these are like the bedroom organizations of the 2010s, just on steroids now. And there are so many, particularly in Asia, in Russia too, that are just making promises they absolutely cannot keep. And so, look, it's very impressive when a man in a suit can fucking, write a check for 50 grand, but all he has in the bank account is 60 grand. That's fucking less impressive. And you'd be amazed how many people are still trying to get a foothold in this industry. Because they believe the liquidity will come. Now, I'd say to those people as well, you need your head examined. This is esports. The liquidity is never coming. Never. We're still gonna wait another 10 years. By the way, when the Saudis pack up and leave, wait for that esports winter. You've seen nothing yet. It's gonna be unbelievable. When that certainly is coming somewhere down the line. Already rumors swirling around that if ESL doesn't fucking break even in 2025, they're going to break that company up and make it a production company solely for producing events in Riyadh, and they're going to lay off loads of the workforce. So watch this space. Remember, Richard told you about that. But anyway, it starts there. And then the second part, unfortunately, is it's also contingent on you can't accept the crypto. Like, for real, guys, like if anyone comes to me and goes, hey, we've got a contract, we owe you 40 grand for your services. Can we give you perhaps some lovely sheep or some grain? No, they're wonderful assets like that. But we agreed on cash.
I like
so
how
I
it's
don't give a
Settlers of Catan resources.
Yes, I've used Settlers of Catan examples. But I mean, look, I'll add as well. Obviously, having recently been in Bucharest, I'm always reminded of there was a period of time where Romanian Division 2 football transfers had grain and onions and things like this attached to the transfer fees. You can look that up. But I don't give a fuck about your crypto. I don't give a fuck about your onions. I want my motherfucking very real money. And if I ain't ain't getting it within a 30-day time frame, we got beef. I'm never going to sit on that shit. So that's another problem. And also, it's not like I'm not sympathetic, right? Like, I know what it's like. Like, Kassad back into coaching, he's got to think about his reputation. He wants to get back into the business and industry he loves. Maybe some doors that were previously open aren't, dependent on other things, other associations, other types of content, whatever it might be, things he said on a desk. Who knows? Because it's a very petty and childish industry. But by the same token, if Kassad had come to me before this and said, "Hey, Richard, I want your advice. Should I go to Bleed?" I'd say, "No, fuck no. You must be insane." I would have told every one of those players, even with Kassad already there, I would say, "Fuck no, you must be insane." I would have said it for all the Valorant people. You must be insane. Remember at the start, nobody could quantify where the money was coming from. Nobody could explain to you why Bleed was rich or wealthy or could sustain funding an esports organization. If you cannot do that, then it's a fugazi. It's not real. So it starts there, and then I would add, just as a third point, if we have the failure to do our due diligence, or we want to roll the dice, we don't really care. Maybe that was Kassad's thinking. And then we don't want to get into an argument the first time a payment's late. After all, these things happen. Then absolutely, it gets back to where is the governing body that could issue some sort of punitive measure against an org that does these things? Well, it doesn't exist. It doesn't really fall under the purview of ESIC, although I would argue, instead of trying to investigate corruption you can never prove because you don't have the resources, why not repurpose the Esports Integrity Commission and make it that, any org that has financial issues, you can go to them anonymously, and then you get like a fucking, stamp against your reputation, 3 stamps, and you're not allowed in any ESIC regulated competitions. That would be a lot better for the world of esports. Or maybe it should fall under the purview of a union. Well, every time we start a player or team union, they totally collapse within the fucking weight of their own egos and false expectations.
I think the problem with the unions, too, is that they only represent one group of players from one game, whereas I think the issue here with Bleed is that they are dealing with Valorant, that's dealing with Riot, and they're dealing with Counter-Strike, which is dealing with the entire circuit, not really the competitive circuit, not really Valve. I mean, I found articles about their Mobile Legends players, so literally their mobile games players, who got stranded in Singapore at a boot camp because they couldn't get a plane ticket home. The org literally wouldn't buy them plane tickets back from the Philippines, and so they just got stuck in Singapore during a boot camp. So, I mean, when we get to all of these problems, like that can't be something that continues to go on, right? I want to talk about this in terms of solutions, but first off, guys, I do have to talk about our brand new sponsor on this show. It is going to be AG1. So AG1 is a vitamin supplement with prebiotics and probiotics in it. Comes in a nice powder form. I like to drink it for breakfast. I've been drinking it every day since we've gotten sponsored by them on some of our other shows. It's actually great stuff. They've had a lot of, it definitely makes me feel more energized in the morning. I go ahead and I mix it with a scoop of creatine powder so I can just kind of knock all that stuff out right in the morning as the first thing I eat during the day. So they've done a bunch of gut health studies that you guys can check out. They've actually shown to up to double the amount of healthy bacteria in your gut. So it is really nice. I've been enjoying it. Also tastes pretty good. Has vanilla and like pineapple core in it. So a healthy alternative. If you guys need that additional supplementation of minerals, vitamins, probiotics, prebiotics, is a good opportunity. And you can start with AG1 and notice the difference for yourself. It's a great first step in investing in your health. And that's why we continue to be excited to be partnering with them. You can try AG1 and get a free bottle of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/horsemen. That's plural, MEN, horsemen. That's a $48 value for free if you go to drinkag1.com/horsemen. So check it out. And thank you to AG1 for sponsoring the Four Horsemen. And thank you guys for supporting our sponsors.
Need some of that right now.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Repair
great,
me.
It's good. It's great. Honestly, I've been really enjoying it.
By the way, they also have a bunch of other stuff as well. Like one thing I found is quite cool was if you're someone who doesn't know much about supplementation, they actually have the vitamin D3 in like dropper form. So you don't
Yes.
even have to take separate pills. You just take like one little drop on your tongue and you'll have enough for the day from that. So it's pretty cool, actually, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Very high quality. They've done a lot of research studies on it, guys. You can go check it out at drinkag1.com. So thank you very much. All right, so let's talk about some of this, because I do think this is an interesting place to send the conversation into what can be done. And I think the issue is, so the Esports Integrity Coalition really hasn't worked. The problem is that in order to do this investigation, like if we're talking about an actual regulatory body, you need to hire real people to work for it who are, intelligent professionals who are either journalists or lawyers who can actually, field this kind of information and have the prudence to make these calls. Now, unfortunately, this group of people is extremely limited in terms of who they could be. And I think the reason why we can never have this is because it would require the cooperation of basically all the major developers and ESL and Blast and the other, PGL, the other tournament operator entities. And unfortunately, all of these people have their own initiatives, and they all have some bullshit going on behind the scenes that they don't want exposed. And frankly, they've all been up to hijinks that should have them banned in the past, really, because these are not well-run organizations. And to the point about the Valorant stuff earlier, if anybody was supposed to vet this organization or had the power to vet this organization, as somebody who has run organizations that have been involved with Riot, they do demand all your player contracts, as Kassad mentioned in the emails, and they do demand, they can demand records of all your business stuff, and that is a prerequisite to them signing a partnership agreement with you in which you receive money from them. Because remember, in Valorant, they are getting stipend payments from Riot. God knows what happened to that money, or if they, for all I know, actually, they never actually gave them the money because the contracts were never sent to them, it appears. So actually, it's possible that Bleed never.
I think the money would have
from...
been contingent on that.
Yes,
right?
I would imagine it would have been, right. But it is crazy to me that they wouldn't send the contracts if they were anticipating on receiving money, which could have been like, I don't know how much the Pacific region pays, but at least in the Western region, it's like $1.5 million, right? It's not an insignificant amount of money to these teams. So it is rather baffling. I mean, it goes to your point that maybe they were occupied with something else at the time. But I do think it's really hard to say that we could have some sort of governing body that enforces this for all of esports, because even though it is obviously needed, you would have thought that Riot would be a little bit faster on like clamping down on this, because they had the most power over compared to anybody else in this situation.
By the way,
Players are
similarly,
not as loud as they should be. Yeah, go, Duncan. Sorry.
I know another thing people often say, but this is tricky in itself, is, people often say, well, the way you stop prize money being taken is just pay the prize money directly to the players. It's like, think about the precedent you're setting if you do that, though. Like, you're setting the precedent, like, we're just going to have scammer orgs, so this is the way we get around it, as opposed to, vet them so they're not fucking scammers, because in the case of things like Valorant, you're only picking fucking 10 teams for a region or whatever it is. Like, it's not like we're talking like there's hundreds and hundreds and you're letting anyone through the door. So is that actually like, is that an appropriate solution? What do you think, Richard, on that one? Because obviously it does mean the player gets the prize money, but at the end of the game, it seems a bit irresponsible,
I think this is the problem with it, is it lets the inmates run the asylum, especially when some of these players are 18 years old. You basically strip the power away from the organizations that are frequently run by well-respected individuals in the space. But the problem is, like, when you start to, I think if I was, if I was a tournament organizer or a developer and running these leagues, I don't want the players having that much power, because you want to have, I would say, more seasoned and responsible individuals in charge, rather than, the players basically being like, I don't need an org, and then forming their own, because that's what happened in Dota, right? And like, I don't think the Dota orgs, for the most part, are very well run.
Yeah. I mean, look, for my money, I think, unfortunately, there needed to be something created somewhere along esports where essentially there was a reputational like stamp of approval that orgs could have, and I've talked about this 20 years ago. It was like how like the kite mark on like a piece of safety equipment it lets you know that, you use this and it isn't going to burn your house down or whatever the fuck, right? Well, there's never been an equivalent of a kite mark for an esports organization. Like, and by the way, unfortunately, almost every organization has like skeletons in the closet. So then it gets into how would you ever break free of it? For instance, when I was a manager in Four Kings, one of the biggest names in the UK, very well respected, had some big names attached to it. I came in at the tail end when we were literally, much like Kassad, we were trying to keep the lights on. I couldn't believe the reality of how it worked in an esports org, especially one of this size and stature. An org that had like Grubby in it. And there we are, fucking like, well, don't know, we'll have to delay payment to the CS players, because we got to pay Grubby. He's the biggest star, all this mad shit that we were doing. So, I mean, I totally get it in terms of like, how these things can drag out. But I still think there needs to be a charter or a database or just something where if I suspect an org might not be right, there has to be a way for me to know that that's the case. And right now there just isn't. So I don't know what that would look like, but yeah, we need that in our industry. Like it, listen, Kassad probably should have done this. And again, I do want Kassad to defend himself from the things I'm saying on this episode. But it's like he probably could have bought all the articles of incorporation. It's all publicly available. He could have downloaded it all, looked at the money. He probably found out that technically there was, I don't know when you joined, but you probably could have found out there was some issues there. Could have then cross-referenced the names, done a Google search. But ultimately, it probably shouldn't be upon you to do that. Maybe that is asking a bit too much of people to join an esports organization. It's what I would do now, knowing what I know about the industry.
Thing that you need to do like in 2024, right? How is it a thing that you need to come up first in 2024 when you're joining an org? Let's go back to what you said. First of all, I'm not going to get my head examined because I already did that. The results are like, iffy. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the fucking church in about 5 days from now, which is my birthday, and try to see if I can get this fucking curse of me lifted. Because
listen,
listen, that's story we talk about next, so you can just ask him to politely leave, Kassad.
Listen, it started with fucking Cloud9 and that fucking crazy things. It went to that extremum thing, which the guys, I go there, they already spent $3 million, paid buyouts for like 500-600K.
You haven't got a great track record of dogs. You also were
It's fucking crazy, dude. The only kind of I go bed at night and I'm thinking about Alexi, like how he did the same thing, and look where he is now. Maybe stroke of luck comes to me. But the second thing, like after the church, I'm gonna tell you about this fucking thing about crypto. Even though I would love Richard to live in a world where everything is right and correct and everything needs to be on point and be done in a certain way, but sometimes things like a lack of money knocks to your door. Like you need to pay the bills. You need to feed your child. You need to fucking pay the electricity. You need to, do all this shit. And especially once you get a child, like you start looking things differently. I never defended anybody. I never accused anybody or anything. I don't give a fuck what other people do. But taking crypto at a position where you don't get the salary for like 3 months, and I'm talking about myself, about the players as well. I gave you the Faven example, right? When they get that money, they're in a position in March. They signed in January. The position in March is like they will take what they can get. And they just take it any way they can. Cool. They will accept the fee. They will accept the tax. They will accept whatever the fuck they need to accept, as long as they get money to put the food on the table. I'm not saying like you're not wrong, that you are wrong, sorry. But there are things that you kind of have to do at some point. The problem that I had,
No, my rebuttal to that would be, what the fuck is going on in this industry where
that's my
somebody
next
like
point.
Well, okay, but just hear me out, right? My rebuttal would be this: how is it that a pro player gets to a point where they literally can't feed their kid or keep the lights on? Like, what's happening? Like, I mean, by the way, if that's true, and I'm not saying it isn't, but if that's true, what are we all doing? What a waste of time this business is. Because,
I mean, that's true, though.
Right, but listen, Fabian, to use his example, he's been a pro player on one of the top orgs in Europe. That, by the way, you can't impugn like Big's reputation, for instance. You know, they might have smaller budgets and they might not have great ambitions, but I've never ever heard of like players not being paid on time or any of that bullshit. Where's all the money going, my dudes? And then so the other thing is as well, for you, Kassad, if you can literally cut a check for 10K. To buy a player from a fucking org on behalf of an org that might not pay you that 10K back, I think you've got money in the bank. So I would say that, yes, I get it. You've got to pay bills too. You've got to feed your family too. You've got to do all of those things. But actually, I might even go so far as to say you're helping Bleed get away with the bullshit at that point by covering for them financially in a way that you absolutely shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I should not have helped them, but I wanted to keep helping not because of Bleed as an organization, because I couldn't care less. I cared about the players getting paid, like because they're at the end of the day my teammates, and I want them to get paid. I have been like talking to Hampus's mother for fuck's sake to help him get paid, you know. And it's like there are a lot of shit that happened in the past 6 months. The goal was not, even though it looks like technically that I am helping Bleed getting away with this in a sense, the way that you are explaining it, there is nothing to it. It's just mostly getting
that is a very uncharitable framing by me, right? Like, but what I'm saying is, the mechanism via which you are being exploited, you specifically, it's not the money. You're being exploited because of that relationship you have with the players. And so you get used as a pawn in fucking Bleed's fucked up machinations if you're the one running around cutting checks on their behalf. And I would go so far as to say, while it might be very good for the players are pros. They're big boys. A lot of them make good money. Have you ever heard of savings, guys? Just saying. So, like, you have to make hay while the sun shines and save for a rainy day. It shouldn't
Richard,
be.
I feel bad when we are going to the TeamSpeak 6, 7 of us, 8 of us, the whole division. I'll give you an example of my analyst or my manager. Like, they got the contracts for 3 months, never saw the contract ever again. Right? They got paid 1.2K, 1.3K. Like, that is fucking ridiculous.
Yes, right? And don't get me wrong, the smaller cogs in the machine, let's say, I know those people are, again, being exploited by the esports dream. You know, the first-time analyst, the first-time coach, the guy who does the demo prep. You get brought in, you know, the nutritionist, whatever fucked up title they get. All these orgs are predatory in what they do in terms of they get a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young person who believes the bullshit to come in. They'll work for peanuts anyway, and then they never get those peanuts. So, to be clear, I'm laying all of the blame on Bleed's doorstep, but I'll also add, like, it is a much broader indictment of the industry if, like, 3 to 4 months outstanding payment, which absolutely should not be happening, is unconscionable and cannot ever be redeemed. But if that is bringing pro players who've got like 5-6 years of professional contracts under their belts, literally to their financial knees, they're like, what are they doing? Like, I think it paints a very dark picture of the industry. By the way,
but I take an example of like players that we got, right? Paven, he was on the bench for Big for what, 6 months. So I cannot get into his numbers because, like, you know,
of course.
So the numbers are on the bench are small, right? So he doesn't have like too much. He was 6 months there. Then he comes here to Bleed, and then he signs a contract where the money doesn't come. So there is no zero income over months and months of period. So what the fuck is he going to do? Borrow money from a neighbor? Or fight for his money? Or accept crypto payment or any kind of alternative payment? What is he going to do?
Look, I'm just saying, I can't believe
Alex,
there's not
I have no money.
Yeah, but I can't believe there's not a buffer. I can't believe that.
Well,
how much buffer do you think it's good? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Because the money goes fast, man. Especially now.
Sure,
especially if you have a full family. It's not like the players are going out and spending on fucking God knows what. Money goes fast.
Yeah, no,
especially with like these
can
kids, they're
that.
stupid. Yeah, they're stupid and they spend the money.
Yeah, okay. and then like it's a sidebar. It's not really the point, but it's almost as if I said like I think it is fundamentally destructive to your chances of ever getting the money you are owed if you sort of relent and start taking crypto. But I must also acknowledge, if you are in the position where you have to accept the crypto and then like flip it for maybe less than it's worth or whatever because you've got bills to pay that day, despite the fact you are a tenured professional who has been paid a professional player's salary. By the way, speaking as a member of broadcast talent, I know the numbers the pros make compared to us. It's fucking day and night. I would love to be a pro player. Like, I would absolutely love to be a pro player. You know, but you've got to be careful with your money. And so for me, I'm like, I think that just says something even darker about the industry than Bleed is a fucking bullshit organization that has been robbing Peter to pay Paul, engaged in a bunch of fraudulent bullshit, and now they're gonna pack up like it's a fucking lemonade stand, and they were just never there. But that is a story as old as the business itself. What is worrying me is that high level pros, people who played in tier 1, don't have fucking money. That's crazy.
I'll tell you how. But I'll tell you how. It's very easy. Like, first of all, like these kids, how old are you, Richard? 40, 39? What are you?
39.
Let's say you're 40.
No. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm
let's say you're 40. So you're
been 39 for a few years now. But yeah, but 40 years old. Go on, we'll do that. We'll do 40.
Well, let's say you're 40. You're a grown-ass man. You have been through life. All of you pretty much here have been through life. You have been through ups and downs. You matured as a human, right? And you know
theoretically
in a sense, right? So you understand these things, yes?
Yeah.
I mean, Duncan, Monty, you agree, right? You have your families, you understand this shit. I do too. But we're talking about 20, 22, 23-year-old kids. How were you and how mature were you as 22, 23? Would you think about savings? Well, that's one thing. Would you think about like, in advance that this org is going to be shit? Would you do your due diligence, whatever? Which I kind of did in a sense, because once I saw the fucking Riot accepted them in the partnership and Legia was there and other people in the industry, why the fuck would I do more due diligence?
I'm going to defend Kassad here, because this is one of those times where the lie was so big.
I want to make it clear, I'm not really attacking Kassad.
I know. I understand that this is a theoretical conversation, but like if you actually, I think it's unfair, because if we were categorizing Bleed as this brand new organization that comes in, that's only invested in Counter-Strike, maybe, but I mean, they have multiple divisions across Dota, Valorant. They win the Valorant promotion tournament, which means they've been around long enough to actually compete and to get in there. Like, this seems really legit. I mean, what is the due diligence that needs to be done? For me, this is a systemic failure of the esports industry, not a failure by the people who signed to this organization, because this wasn't just a one-off. This was a network of 6 different teams that were all in these different esports, and they had been going on for a while. So why wasn't anybody complaining about this?
I won't bring it to this podcast, but it is interesting how opinions can differ. There was an incident recently in politics where a bunch of content creators, it turned out they were getting money being paid from the Kremlin, and the Universal, or well, not even directly from the Kremlin, but from like a Russian person with ties to the Kremlin, and they'd put several layers of obfuscation so they could have plausible deniability, or maybe they didn't know. The universal consensus is you must always know who is signing your checks. So that's the standard in the world of politics. I don't know if the standard should be that in the world of esports, but if we're ever going to be a professional industry, it probably should be. And so it is a very mild criticism in retrospect, because I also agree Riot have failed as well, because it's Riot, so of course they have, right? And everyone else, by the way, on those teams going out and playing for free and saying nothing publicly, they have failed you. The people that come later.
It's insane to like hear those emails that Kassad got, where they literally just accept the fact that Bleed isn't going to send them contracts for like 3 months.
Yeah. Well, listen,
it's crazy.
I know it is crazy. And by the way, if you're Riot and you rule with this iron fist in previous instances that you may or may not be familiar with, Monty, why are Bleed getting 3 months? to not
week,
present
baby.
the most.
I got a week.
Why are Bleed getting 3 months to not present the most basic of documentation around competing in their league? So don't get me wrong. As I said, I just wanted to bring that facet of the discussion to the table because we asked how can these things be avoided in future, and I want it on record that I said somewhere again for the millionth time that if it sounds too good to be true in esports, it's not like the real world where sometimes you do get a free lunch. In esports, you never do. Not only do you never get a free lunch, the person you're having lunch with disappears in a plume of smoke, does the ninja vanish, and you're left with the bill. That's how it works in esports.
I would argue that the one time that people did get the deal too good to be true was when the Saudis bought Face It in ESL, and then all those people made mega bank because they got bought at exactly the right time, post-COVID, writing on those numbers at a ridiculous valuation. Because those companies weren't worth $1 billion together. That's absurd.
Nothing in esports is worth anything it says it is, which again is kind of the root cause of the problem. That what esports workers are trying to do, and this applies to players and analysts and coaches and GMs and even broadcast talent to some degree. What we are all trying to do is place a value on our services based on numbers that aren't real to begin with, and we are working with businesses that don't make what they claim, don't have the assets and liquidity that they claim. And so it's a layer cake of lies. I understand that it can be complex to negotiate, but I think too many people do take things at face value. And I don't know how that could be when we're 25 years into what is a fucking failed project. From the start, like it has been broken from the start.
I just love how this podcast just inevitably just devolves into esports.
As long as I'm on it, I will steer the conversation there.
What I learned.
I want it to be fixed. I want it to be fixed for people like Kassad. Kassad shouldn't have to pull Singaporean fucking company house documents to know whether or not being employed is going to cost him the 6XL shirt off his back.
But
I think
he absolutely should have to cash out crypto and then carry it in physical currency to his players.
Yeah, I mean, also it might even be illegal. I don't even know. If Kassad broke the law there.
Everything is legal. I made sure that about that. So the thing is, like, to give you what is a fucking. Don't worry. I do have an idea for the solution. I'm gonna tell you what is it and why it cannot be ever implemented. The first thing is, like, you need an association similar to, I was going to say FIFA, but we all know FIFA is fucking corrupted as shit. But the base of it at least has a point, right? Where all the teams and all the organizations, professional teams and organizations and players, if they don't have obviously an organization, can sign up and agree to certain things, like they're signing up and leaving the fucking data or whatever the fuck, and they're a registered player in the organization. The organizations that want to participate in these events have to be accepted by that association, right?
Yeah.
ESL, whatever, Blast, who cares, right? And they have to go through all of these processes, the legal department, all these things, the boards of directors, and everything, all the hoops that you need to jump through to actually get there. If you want to run your fucking event outside of this shit, the players and the teams who are registered cannot participate in that one, and the other way around, right? So this is the start of it. Why it cannot be organized? Because the CS right now, I don't know about the other titles, but CS, as far as I learned in the past 8-9 months in the competitive environment, is so fucking corrupt, is so fucking in terrible state that it seems that it's beyond saving. It's beyond saving. The amount of money that is being laundered, the amount of match fixing that is happening, the amount of shit that's going on the shady side of the things, in all the transactions, in fake companies, fake contracts, shit contracts, and all this shit that is going on is beyond saving at this point. Because you have all these people laundering their money, match fixing, doing this gambling/casino shit they don't have their gambling licenses. They're doing this skin stuff, that whatever the fuck is going on there. Everything is connected to each other to the point where the evil has become so big that nothing can save it.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna swallow us. And there is a 99.9% chance that's going to happen. And there is no no fucking savior. There is no fucking Jesus Christ that will come down and save us from this. Because it has been taken over by the corrupt people.
Well,
If
the
it
worst
can
part
be
is
done,
Kassad,
yeah.
Jesus has visited us about 5 fucking times. Jesus has actually been here, the metaphorical Jesus, that is, and I'm not referencing myself, but we've had all these opportunities to get out of the hole we're in. We've been thrown lifeline after lifeline, tens of thousands of millions of fucking dollars of relatively cleaner VC money, and all the people in esports have pissed it up against the wall. So we get back to here. Why is it like this? Well, we could have been saved. We could have been in the promised land, but the wrong people got the money and made the wrong decisions with that money. So you're right. We're not getting saved yet again. Like, even Jesus is going to get fucking bored after a while, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's going to be like, these people are dickheads. I don't want to save them. Fuck them.
Well, if you don't want to waste your money, here's where our last sponsor can come into the show. That's right.
Smooth transition.
Don't, as Richard would say, piss your money up against the wall. Go to factormeals.com/horsemen50. And of course, Factor will deliver to your door in chilled boxes, of course, weekly meals for you that you can enjoy. They're all chef crafted, never frozen, fully cooked right to your doorstep. They got 35 options every week. They rotate every week, so you can always find something new. Keep it interesting. They've got different kind of lifestyle options. So they've got Gourmet Plus, Keto, Calorie Smart, Vegan, and Veggie. So anything you want, they've got it. Plus, they can add add-ons such as breakfast, protein shakes, all kinds of stuff can they toss in that box for you to be delivered to your door, so you guys can enjoy that. I have really enjoyed it when I've been back in the States. It does make my life a lot easier when I'm busy in the middle of the day, or I'm thinking about ordering food. This is a cheaper and probably healthier option for you, considering you're probably not making the best choices when you're ordering takeout food. I'm going to go ahead and guess I don't. I know that. So it's better to have this around to kind of ward off the temptations. And you guys can head to factormeals.com/horsemen50. That's again plural, horsemen, MEN, and use code horsemen50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code horsemen50 at factormeals.com/horsemen50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. Thank you very much. We appreciate the Four Horsemen sponsor. It's keep lights on here at Less Free Nation. So, back to the doomerism that we've had here. But speaking of all the VC money, I mean, the thing about this and the thing that VC money does is it always gets pissed up against the wall because they're not looking for the sustainable business. The way that venture capital worked in the era of massive lending, right, was that you are looking for the company that is going to 1000x your investment, right? And you literally drive these companies, you get on their boards and you just whip them repeatedly to kind of drive it as fast and as big as possible. So you actually, if you are VC, want the esports teams to be pissing their money up against the wall because you believe that spending is going to basically create the audience, right? If we make better content, if we sign more players, if we create more hype, if we make the tournaments bigger, that is what will drive the audience, and that will drive the frenzy that is going to cause these team valuations to soar. Right. And they do this in any industry. It's like now it's happening in AI right now, guys. The only thing you can get VC funding for it, everybody's just grifting AI left and right. Everybody's fucking company that's trying to get rounds from VC companies is an AI company, or they're saying we're incorporating AI in this way. And of course, all bullshit. But all that money is going to get pissed up against the wall at the same time. You know what I mean? That's what it is for. It is for and very much intended to be pissed against the wall.
Which is why, by the way, it was the golden era. You don't have to piss it up against the wall. You can piss some up against the wall. You can try a few things.
Well, that's what the smarter teams did.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I don't know who did that in America ultimately. Not many. So, you know, but just to hop back to Kassad's thing, unfortunately, what he's talking about is almost like a pyramid collapse, because Tier 2 right now, particularly in CS, but also in Dota, it's fucking rotten to the core, and the money is bullshit. And one of the things that, you know, these orgs will start doing is it is a gateway to a much broader corruption. You know, when if your salaries aren't being made, you might get tempted to match fix. Sometimes, and I know this directly, organizations bring in players with the express intent of saying, we're going to fix games together, and that's how we're going to get you paid. You're going to get us paid, and then that's how we keep you in your salary, essentially. There's whole tournaments in CS dedicated to just creating match fixing outcomes. And so, and that's very real. And so, unfortunately, the tier 2 is completely busted. So, like, that might not sound like a big deal, because I've said the last thing we need is more bedroom organizations or new people coming in to be like, hey, I want to start an esports org, bedroomgaming.com. I'm a fucking idiot with a LinkedIn page. You know, like, we don't need any more of that. We've got too much of that, right? But unfortunately, we do need the tier 2. The tier 2 is the incubator for all the talent. The tier 2 is the place that when people do fall out of tier 1, how do you offer value, wisdom, experience? How does someone like Kassad, who's been a coach at, like, you know, top organizations, where does all of his expertise go? Is he just supposed to leave the industry, right? You know, no one in tier 1 wants you at the moment, so where do you go? Well, you have to go and take these 1.5 tier 2 jobs, and therefore the money has to be real. Otherwise, we end up with a situation like this. So it's really fucked up. And like I said, it's the same in Dota. The match fixing is through the roof. The bullshit is through the roof. The fake money is through the roof. The salaries that never turn up through the roof. You know, so I don't know what we do to fix any of that, because that is the fundamental esports problem. But there must be a way. There has to be somebody who is interested in validating, certifying that you know, this organization can be allowed to play in our collective sandpit. It can't just be games developers. There has to be some way we can all come together to solve that problem.
But Richard,
it seems
I
like
think,
a relatively easy one.
I think you don't want to open the mystery box, right? Because in order to do that, you would have to actually verify ownership, verify corporations, verify sources of funding. And as soon as you start to do that, Richard, I think the wheels just fall off this whole industry, because it's full of dark money, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, people, especially people like ESL or Riot, they don't want those things exposed. And obviously the teams don't want it. You know, if you are just a money laundering enterprise, as we have seen, I don't know how often that's happening now, but it certainly did happen a lot in the past. You know, what does that mean if some of the big orgs are exposed for some of these features, right? I think it's really hard to do that, and because nobody wants that, and nobody's going to pay for it. Like, I can't imagine a world where Activision, Blizzard, and Valve, and ESL, and Riot, and Ubisoft all come together and collectively agree to pay a stipend to a certifying body, because you have to actually hire real professionals for this, and those real professionals don't come for $0. And there's really a limited pool of people who would even be qualified to do this, because you'd have to be literally dealing with lawyers or journalists who already know esports.
But this is why I prefer Valve. Valve have made it pretty clear that they dislike orgs and don't really understand what value they offer. And by the way, at every turn, the orgs have essentially proven them right, because they steal sticker money and they don't pay salaries, and, you know, they do all this bullshit. But the bottom line is, no pro in this industry where we're at now in 2024, no pro is even getting out of bed to play a video game unless they're getting like $5,000 a month. Like, it's certainly that's the case in CS. So we need a body that can offer that salary. Valve have always lived in this world where they're like, but if the players came together and made their own organizations and at the tournaments, the prize money would sustain them. Problem with that is you have to win prize money, mate. And so people want something, not for nothing, because you're a walking billboard when you're a player, you're a brand ambassador on top of everything else. You have to practice, sometimes really disproportionate amounts, particularly in the lower tier. Like tier 2 teams practice like they're tier 1. one. Some cases they play a lot more maps, they grind more, and it's a really unhealthy way to live, and they get less money for it. Riot, on the other hand, though, Riot have an obligation to do all their due diligence because they actually market their product pretty much off the back of the other organizations. You know, and they've turned a blind eye to a bunch of bullshit that these orgs do. I'm still waiting for the fucking Reginald hotline. What are we talking about? So, you know, Riot use big orgs like TSM, right? And they use big orgs, you know, over like Sentinels or whatever. They use that to market their respective games and then take that viewership, and that's part of their business model. And this is why you are partners with them. Who doesn't vet their business partners? Like corporation to corporation, who doesn't do that? Like, if you want to be like a sport, by the way, I mean, it's a joke over here as well. But in the Premier League, we have what they call the proper persons test, where if you want to own a team in the Premier League, you have to get fully background checked. And this is what delayed all the Saudi Arabian PIF buying out Newcastle. Prior to that, the one guy, there was Carson Young, who was a Birmingham owner. He fucking got found out having a bunch of shady connection, like money laundering, suspected drug trafficking, I think, as well at one point. I can't remember. That might have been somebody else. Not to mention Usmanov, famously from Esports, Arsenal as well. So at least theoretically, there's a safeguard there. And this is a complete failure. This is a Google check. That's what drives me crazy.
Yeah, as you're saying, you know, there are those little literal articles with people whose names are on the legal documents for these companies that are physically assaulting people, or
which Riot must have. They must
engaged in fraud.
They must have seen the documents. Like, I'm saying perhaps Kassad could download these before he accepts a contract. You're Riot Games. Don't you have counsel to do this for you? You must have, right?
Right. Either they saw it and they decided not to act on it, or somebody didn't do their job. So those are the two options.
Yeah.
I don't know which one is worse. Which one is worse?
Yeah.
You presenting yourself being this top dog company that has these all rules, and you cannot type GG easy or whatever the fuck you cannot do, and you are the fucking king of the universe when it comes to esports, and you don't do that, and you just turn a blind eye to that, or you're same top dog org, but your employees that they just don't check anything, they just forgot, like, you know, we just assault that's nothing. That's
I just think it's even funnier because if you think about Valorant, right, they only have the 3 regions, and the partner teams are partnered, right, and they only have 1 Ascension team, I believe, per region. And so you would think that it wouldn't be too hard. It's not like they're getting 40 new teams at one time. They're getting literally just a small number of teams that they are in fact promoting, right? And so I guess they have 4 regions, but you guys get my point, right? It doesn't seem particularly onerous for them to be able to check the small number of teams that are going to be promoted and see if they are above board. And certainly, why are we waiting months and months and months? Like, honestly, it feels like if you can't submit player contracts, because they have to have contracts in order to get promoted because they were playing in your tier 2 to get to your tier 1. If you can't deliver those contracts in a week, what I would just say is like, fuck you, next team up, right? And just take the next team.
Exactly. But I have the
this
ultimate
is the final
question.
notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the ultimate question here. If Bleed don't have the money to run an esports organization, and they don't seem to be, you know, well-adjusted people, right? Based on everything we know, what little we know, I should say. Why are they running an esports organization? Right?
It's weird, isn't it? Why is this the grift?
Why do it? It's the ultimate question. I ask this all the time. Every time one of these fly-by-night esports orgs comes along, I think, why did you want to do it? Like, why would you ever do it? Is it something about having like dominion over younger people, like being, fakely impressing people? Are you genuinely passionate about the industry? You got a little bit of money that you can flex. But I've been covering guys like this for 2 decades. 2 decades now, and it's always the same. We had a famous one in Counter-Strike, Source, back in the day, who ran a fucking org. His player name was Madams, right? Here's the level we used to be on, and people in the chat will now see we're not really any further forward. I remember telling all my mates he wanted to start an esports org, this Madams guy, and everybody said, "Oh yeah, he's gonna like send us all to these lands, and the money's really good and everything." And I went, "Does he have a business backing him? Does he have any sponsors?" "Oh no, he's like a multi-millionaire." Okay, he's a multi-millionaire, is he? All right. I don't believe it. I don't believe he's a multi-millionaire. He looks like a fucking slob. That's not what a millionaire looks like. That's not how a millionaire behaves. Oh, Richard, you're skeptical. You're a cynic. Anyway, we go to an iSeries. He pulls up in like a fucking Porsche or something. See, he's a millionaire. All right, okay, yeah. I mean, he's got a Porsche, I guess. It's a start, right? Fast forward. The team that he was sending to all these lands got stranded at a LAN in Belgium. He couldn't be found anywhere. They didn't have hotel rooms that he said he'd booked. They didn't have flights home. And they were like, he's just disappeared. I'm sure this is a clerical error. Anyway, turns out what had happened is he'd had an accident at work and got a big compensation payout. And he wanted to fund an esports org with about the 60, 75 grand he got paid out in workers' compensation. He hired a Porsche for the illusion. Literally hired a Porsche to drive around a fucking like LAN, an iSeries LAN for a day.
Amazing.
Right? And then, oh no, get this. Fast forward to after the disappearing act. Somebody literally walked into a fucking bar and he was working there as a waiter. Right? And he was going, haha, I'm doing that undercover bot. Still trapped in the lie. Telling them I'm doing undercover boss. You probably see some TV cameras about. Don't be like, nah, just a waiter. Just spent all his money. Took that 75 grand, pissed it up against the wall, impressed a bunch of kids. What was the point? What was the point? And
Maybe
people
we're
are just
all
doing that
idiots.
same thing at scale.
Easily impressed idiots.
Well, I'm going to say this. Esports does attract mentally insane people. It's like a magnet. It's the moth.
Richard, you also fail to accept the fact that there are stupid people everywhere. Like, you cannot accept people to act rationally, smart, or normally in many cases at all. Like, you have to accept the fact that stupid people are there. People
with... for example.
Well, the thing is, there is a lot of money laundering. Like, if you are a esports org owner, like, or a fake owner, or whatever the fuck, you embezzle money that government gave you or something, and you launder money for like what, 60 cents on the dollar, you are fucking cheering. Yeah. Like, who cares? Yeah. I don't even know what are the drug margins nowadays, you know. Well, but surely they're close to each other. So why not taking the esports route? So that's my best guess. There is a lot of money laundering. There is a lot of gambling, match fixing things. I can safely say that like there is multiple tier 2, tier 3 teams that are just solely playing to match fix and get money that way.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, famous ones here too, right? Kassad, like there's people like the known players that have been to LAN and stuff.
Yes.
And the top potato
absolutely.
These games.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you throw a map here, throw a second map over there, maybe throw a second game over there, and that's you get 5 UK here, 5 UK, and just multiply that, but like 10 teams, and then the money that's getting to the gambling, sites or whatever the fuck is going on. It's just a whole network of like corrupt shit people that are doing this.
By the way, I do have another statement to make though, which is on the topic of here's one area. I'm just going to use the old classic thing that your parents tell you. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Here's another red flag in esports, right? I'm going to explain to young people. There's a very key distinction between someone who themselves was a wealthy businessman and the son of a wealthy businessman. Now I know you might get lost to me. What do you mean, Thorin? They still got the money though, right? No. First of all, the person who is just the son of the wealthy businessman, they actually notoriously can be frivolous with money and not understand how it was actually earned in the first place, or respect it, or actually have the wherewithal to themselves be good in business. Maybe they are just nepotistically being given pocket money, as it were, which in our world might still be enough to run an org and do all sorts of stuff. And then secondly, the other red flag with that sort of a person is because the tradition is they can often be the frivolous person who gives away the wealth. It's actually one of the reasons, by the way, why a lot of people's implying that, like, oh, your people had this money for years. Like, when people did studies, most generational wealth gets given back within 3 generations or something, because it's the famous thing of your son doesn't appreciate the way that you made it, and then if he has an even more like son, that's the kid that's they lay about who just wastes all the money or spends it on drugs or something. So another similar thing that I'll also point out is that sort of person might even actually have the money. In fact, their family might have the money, the business might have the money. Doesn't mean you'll ever get it, though, because another thing is, if that person is incredibly irresponsible, they might just be going around saying, yes, I can do X, Y, and Z, and then in the past just getting bailed out, basically. And then what's going to happen is, if in this scenario, the person who bails them out goes, well, I'm not paying all this money to some stupid project that was never going to make anything, then you might never see the money also. So unfortunately, these are also reasons why, like, of all the, like, I made the comment on another podcast, I might think Nicola Nyholm is like immoral, a piece of shit, somebody who's just a blatant liar, blah, blah, blah. I don't expect tomorrow, though, to find out that Astralis has just shuttered their doors. It was a fake office in the Cayman Islands, and, you know, no one's ever heard of Nicola Nyholm ever again. I imagine he'll still be roughly around the scene, and if he exits, it'll be through some, at least in theory, legal means. Whereas in this case, when, as Richard says, when someone walks in and the whole vibe is, oh, everything's cool because this guy's rich, like, be really worried about that in esports. Like, that is going to be one of the craziest red flags you can see, unfortunately.
Yeah, and by the way, right the way up to the top. I mean, also because you know we all know this is true. How pathetic is it that there was a bunch of like American League of Legends slot owners, League of Legends team owners, essentially all debasing themselves trying to pitch to Mr. Beast.
I love it. I know.
Like, he's wealthy. Surely with his wealth and his understanding of content, we would have biggest org ever.
Basically, the joke is, Richard, their
Have
pitch to Mr. Beast was the esports equivalent of when Kanye West just told Mark Zuckerberg he needed like $3 billion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, it literally was. Where he just wrote synergy on a piece of paper. What can you offer me? Yeah, synergy, anti-Semitism. You know?
That was also the esports equivalent of when Noah Winston did that Immortals LCS paperwork application, just like synergy.
Yeah.
New future. Can I have the spot? Oh shit, I didn't get it. Oh damn.
So I mean, listen, it's like I say, I am very sympathetic. I want to make it clear, because probably in the YouTube comments when this comes out, like, wow, Richard's got really jaded, attacking a friend over not being paid.
Right. Richard Lewis, hot take. Kassad is a mark, and it's his fault. He enabled all of this to happen.
Exactly.
And because he didn't get some of the money for his own child, he even essentially abetted people stealing from a child, Richard.
A literal child. Literally, Richard Lewis supports Bleed stealing candy from babies. There I am, right? So, no, but I mean, obviously, I want to make it clear.
I see it on Reddit.
Yeah, it's coming. Bleed are totally fucked up, and it's really sad what's happened to all of these players, particularly, as I said, what Bleed were trying to do, what Kassad was quite cleverly trying to do on Bleed's behalf. What it was, he was trying to min-max. I think all of his transfers, up until Nexa, all of his transfers were really good. And he built them a team that was actually competitive. This is another question I want to ask. What would it take for them to get serious about running an esports org? Because they had a pretty good Rainbow Six division. They had an okay Dota team. They got into VCT. And Kassad built them a competitive tier 2, tier 1.5 team that had a good prospects that would have had resale value. Could have potentially turned a profit on those players.
In esports for $0, isn't it, Richard?
They needed money, apparently. They needed money to be a serious organization. On top of that, they needed system, and they needed like processes, like interdepartmental communication was a disaster in the organization. Nobody know what the fuck was going on. If we want to ask for a fucking flight ticket, you need to ask 10 different people, and they all have fucking chat GPT answers. Like, you cannot get a single fucking jersey. Multiple times I fucking messaged.
I like the way you can't even technically confirm there ever was anyone inside Bleed. It could have just been like a really like complicated ARG or something at this point in time.
The thing is, like, you cannot get anything done. I multiple times raged at them openly for not tweeting about our match. on their fucking official Twitter page. They tweet some bullshit about something that nobody cares about. We are playing a game, like whatever the fuck is it? Not even a single tweet. And then I go like, what the fuck, are we a serious organization or are we amateurs? What the fuck are you guys doing? Am I as a head coach need to remind you this?
If you were TSM, you would have just turned around and say, look, Kassad, here's the login. That's your job now, because that's what they did to Freddie
I was going to
Biscoff.
mention the TSM Twitter when they weren't promoting the Counter-Strike team back in the day. That's an all-time
That's literally what they did to Freddie Biscoff. He's like, I'm a bit busy, like, managing what will go on to become the greatest core CSGO has ever seen. Could somebody else do the tweets? Nah, we're TSM. Sorry, mate. You have to offer me value.
What they needed is the system, the processes, the communication being better, obviously, beside the money, what I mean. And they needed competent people to run these like operational roles. Like when you go to someone is needing something, he gets it done. Well, no matter what it is. I suggested to hire multiple people from the industry to help out in the operational, like, systems and everything going on inside the organization. I was always met with a no. Always. People that have high education, people that have years of experience working in top tier organizations, they wanted to work with me. They wanted to look for the opportunity. I said, like, we have this guy, that guy, this guy. Nah, we're not hiring now. Nah, we'll see. And then they end up hiring people from fucking OG or something. I don't even know. And just, those people are not getting paid at the end as well. Yeah. And then end up resigning. So it's just those things were like a lot of things missing. It was just one guy who were pretty much controlling every single thing going on. If you ever needed something from the org, you ask the CEO, the head of esports, this guy, then he says, I need to talk to Mervin about this. Then why the fuck do I have you? I could have gone to ask him myself. Like, can you get the things done or not? Then he says, I need to go to Mervin. And then the Mervin replies once in 2 days, if that. And then how do you expect anything to get done? Nothing. So they needed money, systems, people, like everything. So basically they had nothing. That's the bottom line.
Have you signed on to any of the legal action, or do you plan to take legal action? You have.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that before we wrap up the show, because what we always do on this show on the Four Horsemen is we always end on a bummer, and everyone's really sad at the end, and everyone all of the chat are even going, "Why do I even follow esports?" Which is really counterproductive to what Last Free Nation is trying to build. Right, so
no. We're trying to build the escape vehicle into TV and film. So please go subscribe to Last Free Nation Culture. Thank you.
Yeah, we're on that Mark Merrill trajectory. We don't want to be esports no more. We want to be TV, movies. We have a lot in common, actually. Now that you
that's right. Like Mark Merrill, we're gonna take our crappy competitive video game experience, and then try and be taken seriously as film and TV people.
Yeah, totally. While shaking MBS's hand. So yeah, made a cartoon for Netflix. Me, you can't show it in your country because it has LGBT representation. But let's get a drink. Oh, sorry, my bad. Anyway, I've called the material right. But anyway, so Kassad, tell us about the potential ramifications for the organization that you're engaged in.
What's going on at the moment right now is pretty simple. We have been, people reached out to us, multiple law firms were suggested by different people in Singapore and outside of Singapore. We took one on that is currently working with some of the players from different divisions, like I mentioned. And we...
Bleed partners and sons. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Hey, whatever. I made myself
the thing is like for part of the players, I think it's about 7 players that already like engaged in conversations, like send a letter of demand and all these things, because they owe them about, like what I said, $160,000, and that's just a part of it. There is also like our division and players that are still not yet into the whole thing, but we are just jumping in with them and sending that as well. The numbers are there. I posted them. I know what they owe. I know to the fucking dollar what they owe. I know what's being paid, what's not being paid, and I don't know what's gonna happen with the only thing that I don't know at this moment, because obviously I don't have the legal skills to it. What happens with the players that are contracted that want to go to other teams? Like, let's say Nexa or Jacob, he wants to go to another team, right? Does that team have the obligation to pay 65K to fucking Apex? Or does the team that gets Nexa has the obligation to pay the 42K to whatever G2?
I mean, I would wager not. I mean, put it this way: I don't know the ins and outs of Singaporean contract law, but I can't imagine any contract where there's an agreement to pay you money and that doesn't happen. I can't believe those contracts are valid. I know in some cases,
what
yes,
I think too, because
yeah,
there was like a 30-day notice that we had in the contract. That's why we sent the email on the 6th of September, where we officially said, it's on my Twitter. People can read the whole email. We officially said, like, this is official breach of contract. The notice is there, 6th of September. We still have the email with us because we use our personal email address, like the one that we have, like using for like, esports. And so it's not like a bleed account that got, taken from me. So I don't have anything anymore from that one. But everything is there. 1 month later, we came out with a statement. So my understanding is that we are not obligated to bleed anymore, and everybody is pretty much free, right?
Okay.
So we are gonna try to chase down the money, whatever we can, together with the other players. If we're gonna get it, I don't know, but we have the law firm, going for it for a pretty relatively small fee. I don't think they're charging too much based on what I've seen in the conversations, because we have this group where we are all together and we are all discussing the further steps, what needs to be done. And we'll see. I mean, it's shit show. The bottom line is people are just fucking tired. They just want to be paid and they just want to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be paid. My guess is no. That's my gut feeling, is that the guy is never going to show up again, ever. He's just going to disappear in, forever from esports. He's going to probably try to do something shady in different industries, God knows what. And that's going to be the last time we saw him. With the personnel that's already still in bleed, I'm pretty sure there is like few people that are kind of still hoping working there. But based on their social media, that was like the last post on Twitter was the one that they made about CS Squad, which they blatantly lied, but whatever. That was the last post. After that, it was nothing. I didn't see anything on Instagram. I'll check later. But based on that, I don't think there is anybody there left. So we'll see in a couple of days. The next hearing for Mervin was scheduled for the October 30th from what I've seen. And I'm pretty sure that he didn't even show up on the first one. Like, he sent the lawyer, or just the lawyer was there.
I mean, at the very least, though, like him being, if he's in Singapore, I would imagine it's difficult to evade the Singaporean authorities for a long time, right? And they're not probably going to disappear him from international scrutiny either. Like, if he was in China, this might be a different story, but I think there is a level of hope here that you might actually be able to get to him. Now, whether he has any money to pay you or not, I can't answer, but I think
he just sent his representative, like a lawyer, because the lawyer, from what people are telling me, because they read the court report, whatever, and the law firm that is representing him is a strong law firm in Singapore, like one of the top firms, right? So I assume there is money, there. Like I said, I'm not really hoping too much for it, but I'm pretty sure he just didn't show up for the hearing. He sent the lawyer, and now he's gonna just only show up when he needs to be there, like when it's required by law to be in the courthouse and be there. So I don't know, honestly. I don't really care at this point. I just want like people to get paid and to forget about this shit show that was in the last 9 months.
All right.
Well, I guess that's the bummer we're ending on. Sorry, this should happen to you, Kassad.
Yeah, I mean, same goes, mate. It's obviously, sorry to you and all of the players. I know some of the players. I also know some of the players, I believe, got fucked over in previous orgs prior to bleed. So you're out of the frying pan into the fire on that one. But hopefully there's a happy ending, but it's esports, so there probably won't be.
Well, and as usual, we'll close on the line. Esports, delenda est. We'll see you next time.